You dig? Yeah, we just over here digging. Let me see if the audio is at least popping. Hey, peace, T Miles. Hey, yo, T Miles. Hey, yo, we see why niggas get scammed, and I'm no short of that, right? We get, yo, it really comes back down to education and finances. It really comes down to that. When I say niggas, I'm not dividing black folks. I'm not doing the FBA, non-FBA. I'm talking about black folks. You dig? When I say black folks, just for the record, when I say black folks, I mean black folks. I mean any and everybody who calls themselves black. If I want to direct just like let's say African Americans, then I would say Black Americans. I would say African Americans. I would say FBA, something like that, where y'all know exactly which black people I'm talking about. But just for the record, when I say black folks, it's always anybody who identifies as black. All right. What's killing us that we refuse to take serious because all these get rich schemes out there, you don't need to go to college. See, college, college, yeah. What is this agenda to shoot down college? Meanwhile, every thriving nation from the outside that comes over here, colleges would catapult them to success, general wealth, all that shit, prosperity. Anybody who downplays college, any race that lives in America that downplays college is not successful. They're not top tier in America. And somehow we don't understand that. Indians come over here to become doctors. Chinese come over here to be doctors and everything else. Bosses, like they're your bosses. You know, it's funny because we downplay college, but at some point we get a job because that's the reality gonna kick in. Like, dude, you're not a boss. You won't ever be a boss. And now you got to work. And when you go to get employed, you're going to see that your employer is one of those other nations that felt like college was popping. You're in the bottom, they're in the top. When that sad reality kick in, that's what's going to happen to you. All right. Now you at their mercy if they're going to hire you, because remember, when they look at your black, when they look at your, y'all say I had it right. When they look at your background, is not going to say college nowhere on there, and they're going to judge you by that. And you will be bottom tier. You ever been employed at a job and you agreed to do a certain duty and they end up having you do something else when it's downtime? And then you be like, yo, man, this ain't why I got hired. This ain't what I agreed to when I got hired. Bullshit. It says job duties, but not limited to. You know what not limited to means? That's the great average to whatever we say, boy. Go ahead and clean the toilet. Go outside and rake. That's what that not limited to is for. Yeah, we hired you for this, but you're not limited to just that. You ain't gonna just sit around here when it's downtime and text on your phone and watch them by sports, debate these damn Hebrew Ebionites. And you're gonna learn about the Ebionites today. All right, you're gonna hear about them today. First time I heard about them was Minister Meach, and then Vocab and Tazariak mentioned it. And then your boy Divine Prospect mentioned it. And the information, man, like it's weird because when I hear his information and I fact check, and we're gonna do it together. We're gonna look at what he was saying. We're gonna read the wiki and everything else to see what's going on here. And I'm gonna start calling Unc Prophet Unc. So my man said the pseudos die at their source, and they always play in the gray area. Then they don't. They never say. They never say in clear articulation. They never articulate very clearly what they stand on. You're gonna hear Divine Prospect says that he don't subscribe to the virgin birth, but he's not saying it's all false. You're like, what? But you won't hear it from me. I'm telling you, the Bible has a record of it. It's true, and anything else is false. So my stance is very clear. Always been clear, and everything I stand up for, always been clear. You ain't gonna hear double talk. Me don't even know if Divine Prospect is a Hebrew Israelite by the rhetoric he's spewing. He's not. Like, it should be clear that this brother is a Muslim. This brother, after hearing them talk, after hearing them say what they are, it should be clear that this is what they are. Yeah, people are inboxing me like, you sure? Like, they don't believe he is. And I'm like, dang, is he? Because I know other Israelites don't really welcome him like that because of his ideas. They dig. Now, they'll come to him for certain research. But let me get back on niggas first. So niggas are always trying to get over. That's why they get scammed. This is why they always ready for the play. Always ready for the play. Okay, listen. Pay the amount on the tag or or something, or work out something close, or get out of there, you dumb nigga. Otherwise, if you try to go around that, cut corners, you will get scammed in all facets of life, all areas. My boy who I was working for during pandemic, the second year, he's a contractor. I told you about that. He built homes, remodel, all that stuff. He charges top dollar because he gives you top dollar of worth, right? All of his stuff is on Facebook. You got people that got work with him. It's like, yeah. And a lot of his work is mouth to mouth, and it's mainly when I answer the phone, I was in customer acquisition, so I can tell you to call them. A lot of white folks, and I live in an area where it's a lot of black folks, and it's a lot of outside, like the close outside white folks towns. And this is why, listen, guys, y'all got to stop confusing the racist white folks with the extreme racist white folks. Regular racist white man, you got white folks who are just not racist. You got white folks who are not racist. You got racist white folks, and you got extreme racist white folks. You got black folks who are not racist. You got racist black folks, and you got very extreme racist black folks. Right? Same way, and that's like every nationality that experience racism or dishes it out. You got extremism. You got just your regular whatever. Okay. So, a regular white guy just want his house done right, and he ain't gonna go white just because he white, not some old buy white shit like how black folks do. He ain't gonna drop his guard because this person is white, a white contractor, but he see the shitty work on Facebook and say, well, I'm gonna buy white. That's not gonna happen. A regular white, racist white guy is gonna hire the black guy and have it done, and that's it. Like, we went to so many Confederate houses to get an assessment, quote, and do work on them, to get work done in their homes. Dudes, like, everything about the guy home, everything about him feel like he's racist. There's so much, I don't know. If you ever been around certain white folks, like, you just can feel it. Like, yeah, this, cause it's like the unwarming welcome. You dig? It's like, dang, this one. But anyway, the point is, he'll go black if it's in fact. Okay? Now, racist white folk won't do that. And this is why they're the idiots of white society. they're the idiots. They're the reverse idiots of black society and white society. They'll get a white guy simply because he's white. They'll do everything white simply because he's white, and they'll be scammed and ran over and killed and shot. Same shit. Okay, so black folks will come to my boy. They'll see the work on Facebook. They'll see the testimonies from people that got the job done. You know, in small black town where it goes around quick, real fast. Plus, he's native to the city. I'm native to the city, basically. Not like, you know, most of my schooling history is New Jersey, so I'm like a native. So people know who are people. People know who you are before you even start your business, whatever it is. So they already know like what type of person you are. Okay, and then you're actually good at what you do. They might give you a chance, even though you might be shifty. Okay, but if you're not shifty, it's that much easier to get work in the city you are from. So there's this thing, black folks. There's this value black folks put on each other, indirectly, directly, unconsciously, consciously. I don't know, but it's a value we put on each other that's not very high. And I'm sure a lot's got to do with it from how we behave, you know? So if we put that value on us, how can we call somebody racist when they put the same value on us that we put on it? I mean, they're seeing the same stuff that we see. So if they put a low value on us, then we get mad, call it racist, but then we put a low value, we put the same low value on ourselves or even lower. So when you see a black person in business, like the guy the other day, he was doing pest control. White folks gonna call and they're gonna ask for a quote, and if they sign a contract, accept the job, they're gonna pay what he charges. Period. They might want a little something off. Who knows? But they might try to talk, but really not really. Black folks, when they see a black guy, same thing, pest control. For some reason, like we just think you ain't shit. So if white folks charge, let's say $400 for the job, you got to charge $150. Like that's the mentality that we have on each other, man. I ain't paying you $400 for the job when you're gonna do the same thing as white folks. I could just hire Billy Bob's pest control. I'm doing you a favor. Like this is what I heard. You guys, DJ Focus. I'm sure Chef could tell you that. I'm sure Corey could tell you. Anybody that got their own business that serves black folks, I'm sure they can tell you that. I don't even care if you sell, let's say, I don't even care if you sell the Moore's package, like the whole driving without a license. I bet you those brothers also get the same BS from Negroes. I guarantee you. They charge $200 for their Moore's package. Negroes is like, yo, can I get 50? Can I get the rest too? I bet you that's happening. And it's not that they don't have the money. That's just a common practice that black folks do amongst each other. And nobody ever talks about it. It's the elephant in the room. It's taboo. Don't talk about it. Just like we can't condemn sisters who proudly say, I don't need a man. Okay? Kids killing everybody in the hood. But they don't need a man. Kids still the prison system. But they don't need a man. Sure. Well, Sheriff Grady think you do. Sheriff Grady thinks you do. You dig? Taxpayers think you do. Right? So they'll ask my boy for a quote. All y'all right now and go Google a patio, okay? Backyard patio. Okay, Google it. And some websites let you like get specific where you can like add certain like certain I forgot, you could add natural wood, you get the new stuff. That what it's called. The new stuff is actually better, but you'll see the price. The wood is actually cheaper. It's harder to maintain, and you're gonna need a service like every so often to maintain it. Okay, because if you don't, wood gets rotted, but the alternative is way more expensive, but it lasts way longer, and you can maintain it yourself. You don't got to hire a professional. But if you just Google it, like the other option for wood, you'll see what it is. I can't remember right off the top. But the point is, you'll see how expensive that shit is. So you'll come to him and say, yeah, man, patio, this tall, this wide, or he'll come to you and do an assessment and do the measurements and say, okay, yeah, this is going to run you about $20,000. And that's average. Who got a backyard patio that got it built? Then raise your hand and put it in the chat. How much it costs you? Okay. You know, like a back porch is what I'm saying. Even with wood, it's expensive as hell. So he'll tell you 20,000, right? You'd be like, that's too expensive. And the reality is that you had no business asking for quotes for a backyard patio, period. You couldn't afford it from day one. Okay, for some reason, you got a new job making $20 an hour, you thought you were rich. So ask for quotes. All these fantasies you're going to do with your home. So what you'll do is, you'll say he or anybody else black charge too much. Like, that's too much money. But what you're supposed to do is go get other quotes to see if he is overpricing his job. Then you come back to him and you say, sir, you want to honor the price for, I got 5 quotes. And they all said $8,000. Now, I want to work with you because you're black. I want to buy black. But you're saying $20,000, and clearly you're trying to get over it. Because some businesses, you do got black folks trying to get over it. Okay, so you come back with 5 other quotes. That's like, on average, like $8,500. You say, sir, I'd like to work with you because you're black. You're from the city. We know you. If you run off, we know where to find you. We'd rather work with you. And plus, you live right around the corner. The business is in the city. You come back with those quotes, and that's how you negotiate. And if he doesn't honor it, that's called bad business practices because he's clearly overpricing his jobs. And that comes into that. It might go to the category of like scamming at that point. But what you don't do is say, "Oh, it's $20,000. I can't afford. That's too much." Then go get other quotes, and they all say the same shit. Then you say, "Well, I'm gonna get Poppy. I'm gonna get Poppy to do it." The problem with that is, Poppy will do it for $2,500. You'll get a hell of a break. But where do you think Poppy's getting the money from to buy the material? No, by contractors, you got to give a certain amount of money up so they can buy the material. They buy the material with your money. Okay? Poppy ain't just starting it with his own money. Poppy going to get, you got to give a certain amount of, I forgot the percentage. You got to give a percentage of the job, and he starts the job with your money. Then you got to pay another certain balance, or not the balance, but so I think it's in 3 parts. You got to pay another portion at a certain point, or he could ask for more money if the job ended up costing more than what it was. Like, because as they're working, they could find things under the house or things they didn't catch the first time. And this is legal. They could say, hey, man, we didn't see this because, you know, it's like when you fix your car. Like, if you only want this, the surface done, there's no way the mechanic knows what's beneath. I mean, I'm sorry, beneath, under the engine. He don't know until you open the engine. So he can fix what you had him fix, but that might not fix the problem. That make any sense. He has to take out the engine to see if there's something there, or he got to change this or change that, and that's going to cost as much money. And those are necessary things a mechanic has to do in order to solve your issue. Otherwise, he'll solve the one thing that was causing the obvious problem, but the main problem is underneath what you had done. So he'll say, hey, man, I fixed what you want me to fix, but that ain't the problem because it's still smoking. So I believe from my experience that it's under the engine. That's going to cost you this and that to get finished. What you want to do to get fixed? What you want to do? At that point, you could say, nah, wait, but it's on you. Same thing with a home. If they're fixing something, they see mold or asbestos or whatever, they can say, hey, we got to stop. Now, you can get this out yourself, or we got a guy, but it's going to cost A, B, and C, and we can continue working. But right now, the job you want from us ain't going to get done with this problem existing. Okay? It's going to be a sandcastle. That's what you're going to get. And they could request more money to get the job done. And you'll see this in any shows. Like, I used to watch these shows for fun. Like the flipping homes or just all that shit. Like real estate, period. Like home, how about millionaire, what's it called? Millionaire, the guys who settle homes in New York and California. So I used to watch all those shows. I know how that shit goes. And then I experienced it myself. So, but the bottom line is this: you go to Poppy, he'll tell you, or crackhead Tony, and he'll tell you, yeah, I'll do that 20,000 job for $2,500. But here's how much the supplies cost. So I need that 2,500 right now, like buy your supplies, and I'll finish the job for you. And you never give the contractor all the money before the job is complete. That's even against the law. You never get it. But listen, it happens all the time in black society. Black folks all the time give the contractor all the money, especially a housing contractor, a remodel. When you give them all the money up front, I'm going to say from the stories I heard, that 10 out of 10 ain't returning. All right, and here's the problem. Poppy don't have an LLC, and neither does Crackhead Tony. So you ain't suing shit. They don't have, like, business, like, insurance. So if something goes wrong, you ain't suing shit. And you don't know Poppy and Crackhead Tony from nowhere, right? Crackhead Tony don't even have an address. He lives in an abandoned home. And Poppy, I stay with so many different families. Like, you're never going to catch these guys and hold them responsible. So the bottom line is that if you can't get your shit done by a professional, then that means you just can't get it done, and you should not get it done. But black folks in our society, we want a shortcut, and somehow we think that's going to work. All these decades, man, of it not working, and we still believe it's going to work. So that sets up the stage for these DJs out here and these real estate moguls, self-proclaimed real estate moguls, to scam you out your damn money. Okay, and these gurus that speak 12 languages fluently, and the only language you ever hear them speak was English. But these guys are able to. Now, there are guys. What's the black guy name? I forgot his name. He got like a simple name. But he goes out there to different countries speaking different languages. Okay? He actually does it. So he ain't got to convince you. He ain't got to keep saying it. Like, you've seen it, and you see the Chinese people speaking back with him in their language. You dig? When he learned Hebrew, you've seen him go in a Hebrew community in New York and communicate with those guys. Now, a lot of them don't speak that language. He found out that a lot of the Jews don't speak that Hebrew language that's over here. To them, it's not that important in America. So a lot of them don't speak it, just like the rabbis might speak it, and that's what that was explained to him. A lot of them, so they speak another type of language, but they don't speak the Hebrew out here. I believe in America, but definitely like the people in New York. That's what was explained to him. Because he thought he was going to get like a good conversation, learn the language, but he found out they don't speak it like that. They don't feel like it's necessary. And I'm going to add this in. This ain't him. But they don't feel like it's necessary to speak that divine language in front of the heathens, the Gentiles, which would be us. That's my insertion. He didn't say that. That's what I got from it. All right. So anyway, we cut the corners and we always get scammed. So the DJ on that radio station, that syndicated radio station, he told you, he said, other people go out there. He said, the reason why we do what we do, because it's important to get into like real estate. And he said, people out there who does seminars, they charge you $10,000 and you don't learn anything. That should have been the first and last word we want to hear from him on real estate. How is he charging people $10,000? So people got expendable $10,000 at their bedside, basically, right there to give somebody. And you mean tell me that they're not learning anything? But we charge $100 and you're gonna get way more. Really? I mean, just off that, like, who actually believes that? That you're gonna spend $10,000 for real estate information, investment opportunities, as opposed to $100 but the place where you go to spend 100 is going to give you way tenfold more information. 10 grand to $100, and the $100 guy's gonna give you way more information. That's crackhead stuff. Like even the brother that speaks 12 languages wasn't that bad with his scam. Like he kind of made a scam like almost like somewhere similar with experts of charge. This guy says $100, and you're gonna learn way more than a seminar that costs 10 grand. Like, yo, who do you think you're talking to? But this is how they talk to. Now and when he did that, he was talking to the Hispanic and black communities. He wasn't just black. He undermined Hispanics and black folks by saying that. So listen, if you can't afford it, wait until you can, okay? Or just don't. And if you can't ever afford it, that means it's just not for you. You can't afford a Bugatti either, right? And you don't even think about it because it's out of your price range. So stop thinking about these other things like kitchen remodels, okay? Bedroom remodels, bathroom remodels, all that type of shit. Okay, you barely paying rent, talking about you want to get a bathroom remodel. And when you watch the Twin Exterminators, I watch that show a lot too. And when they go to catch the rodents or whatever type of critter it is, they have to like open up pipes or cut holes in the wall to see where the source is coming, how the source is getting there. Or no, what the source is how, where is the source, how the critters are getting there? Where's the source of the entrance for the critters? Once he finds it, he exposed a lot of bad contractor work, plumbing work. People ain't cap off with certain holes. So that's how they getting in. Contractor ain't do this with the wall. That's how they getting in. People getting over. And as a result, they have a rodent problem that's costing them 10 grand. The 10 grand you got the discount on, you end up spending it anyway, but in a humiliating way to get rid of rodents. Okay. I don't see the chat, by the way. I'm raking. But I am going to discuss the prospect. If anybody want to join to discuss only that for now, you're welcome. I'm going to play his words. I'm going to look at the data. We're going to see if he's representing the information correctly. Is he De-VIL or is he De-VIL? Okay? What are we going to look at? And as I'm watching this, all I can think about is the word that you guys hate, pseudo. That's all I can think about. Like, damn, this is pseudo as hell. Like, it just, I try to say, okay, let me stop saying it. You guys get mad, mainly because you're pseudo. But I said, let me stop saying it. But when you see work like that, the only conclusion is pseudo. All right. Oh, boy. I'm gonna bring that heater. Man, brisk out here. Let me bring that heater outside. Trying to get a Hebrew debate too going. Got some information I want to practice. And y'all put your questions in the chat if next debate I have, and I will ask the question. Let me ask the Hebrew. We'll do it like that. A lot of them were starting to avoid me. Their camps trying to get their intel right. Okay. And the words that brother, I'm gonna call him Brother D because we don't know which one he is just yet. Is he De-VIL or De-VIL? So Brother D, we're gonna see. He wants to rake so bad. He keeps trying to grab the rake from me. He wants to rake so bad. I only started raking because he had a stick. I was gonna just go live. He had a stick. You know, he keeps trying to put stuff on. I do it tomorrow. He had a stick. As a matter of fact, I owe $10 more on my ticket because I kept saying I'll pay tomorrow. Now $10 more. Okay. But he had a stick swiping at the leaves, mocking, like raking. Like he's obsessed with like yard work. Now this is now the way he's behaving, and he's not even 2 yet. This is somebody, a kid, where you might say, even though it's early, but you might say, okay, maybe college possibly ain't for him because he loves just do it your home type stuff. Like when we go to LA Fitness and the guy vacuuming, he sit there and watch like it's enjoyable. Or somebody blowing leaves across Street Hill, sit there and watch. And he's plucking the rakes out, the leaves out the rake. Stopping me from working. All right, come on. Yeah. He's mad because I'm raking. Wait, here you go. All right. I could come. Yeah, I swear I gotta go buy headsets with a microphone and look like Teddy Riley. Yo, I'm tired of this right here because if I put my Beats by Dre on, my Beats on, then the phone still gotta be in my hand because you still can't. I can hear you, but you can't hear me. The phone be low. Okay, so I gotta literally go get. What about those $20 headset things with the microphone? I might try that first. They're like, damn, the headset might be close to that. Some things like $20 now. The Bones. But a while ago, I used to wear those. They always just break. You always get them snagged on something. But yeah, I think I'm gonna just go get the headphones with the headset with the microphone, yo. So I could just, if I called in, if I could do this raking thing, if I got the phone on my damn shoulder and ear. You did? Okay. Let me drop this rake. Let me go to the. All right. Let's let the brother talk, and let's walk behind him and make sure it is what he says it is. Let me get the heater first. Bring it outside. You dig? And my charger while I'm at it. Oh. Okay, charger. Ah, shit. Laptops. Oh, yeah, last night I fell asleep, by the way, as you guys might know. It was a horrible job I did last night, reviewing his work. And that was a live reaction, too, so I was watching the video the first time with you guys. But what I did was I just skimmed through it in the morning. I woke up like 3 a.m. and I skimmed through it, and it was like really, he's making claims, but he really wasn't saying nothing. He's trying to say. Not saying a lot. Spit it out, son. What are you saying? I don't subscribe. He said I don't subscribe to the Virgin Birth, but I'm not saying it's wrong. It's all wrong. What? Questionable. Well, then you picked a side though. Like you're not saying, well, sort of and sort of not. You're saying no because of your research, which you would think is proving it to be incorrect. But then you'll say it's not all incorrect. Yeah, but what part of your research is saying is right? You never disclosed that. This is what people. This is the problem. Like people are having with them, and always had with them. I never had a problem with it. I never really talked to him, debated him or anything. But this is. But I'm now thinking back, hearing the complaints of certain people. Like, yo, he don't really stand on shit. New Black World Order, peace. All right, so here we go. Let's go into it. All right. Make sure I share the sound. We got Mega Man, T Miles Tone. We got Mimi. All right. Let me we got SMH shaking my head. Let me share the link. But I wanna work though. So let me just work. I'm gonna share the link, but let me get this out the way. It's only 22 minutes. I don't think we're gonna do that much. That's the link right there. Let me see what is out there. All right, now I'm gonna use my computer audio now. Let me hang this phone up. Okay, so here is the computer audio. Microphone is good. Oh my God. What was that? Oh my God. All right. All right. So let's get started.
Are you of the, and I know this might be a long teaching for you, but just real quick, your quick opinion. Do you believe Joseph is the father or not?
So you're asking me from my personal perspective?
Or based upon scripture, based upon your understanding of scripture?
Well, that's a multifaceted question. I mean, I'll tell you my subscription. I don't subscribe to the virgin birth, and I don't because I don't just look at what we have today known as the Bible. I look through history, and I do what's called textual criticism.
Okay, so that you got to be careful. Because this is how you go into pseudoisms and go into cult leadership stuff. Because now he's a scholar. He didn't say, hey man, what I do is I read the scholar's work and I see the inaccuracies in certain things that other scholars produce, or I see how scholars differ on certain things, and they don't really be conclusive in their findings. This brother said he basically put himself in a scholar's role. Like scholars got all type of college background and all type of certification and stamps behind them, and credentials, credibility. And the brother, this is the first problem. You start putting yourself in a scholar's seat without being a scholar. So now he's saying it's based off his research as a non-scholar. Got it. Let's back up.
Which is known as the Bible. I look through history and I do what's called textual criticism, which means that I look at all the available evidence because there's not one manuscript for the New Testament, just like there's not one manuscript for the.
Let's run that back, Turbo. Let's catch what's being said.
Birth. And I don't because I don't just look at what we have today known as the Bible.
He's saying what he looks at. Why is the right? All right.
I look through history, and I do what's called textual criticism, which
So this guy with no formal training does textual criticism. Okay, cool. And he's gonna place his scholarly work amongst the scholars' work. Oh boy, we got to stop this in our community, man. This making us look really bad. All right.
means that I look at all the available evidence because there's not one.
He looks at all of the available evidence, but then he's going to say he doesn't do that. Watch this.
Manuscript for the New Testament, just like there's not one manuscript for the Tanakh or the Torah. There's thousands of manuscripts, thousands. I've went through a couple of hundred. I haven't gone.
So he went through a couple hundred. He has not went through the thousands. But brother, literally 2 seconds ago, you said you look at all of the available evidence. Oh my God.
I look at all the available evidence because
I look at all of the available evidence. There are thousands of manuscripts, but I only looked at 100. What? This is the double talk that vocab Unc. A lot of people be like, yo, what's good?
What we have today known as the Bible, I look through history and I do what's called textual criticism, which means that I look at all the available evidence because
he looks at all of the available evidence. What else? All right.
there's not one manuscript for the New Testament, just like there's not one manuscript for the Tanakh or the Torah. There's thousands of manuscripts, thousands. I've went through a couple of hundred. I haven't gone through all of thousands. It's just
so now he doesn't look at all of the evidence. He looked at all of the evidence, and now he does not look at all of the evidence. He looks at a fraction of all the evidence because there are thousands of manuscripts, and he only went through a couple hundred. I mean, how do you go from one extreme to the other? He looked at all of the thousands of manuscripts, the evidence. Then he goes back and say, nope, I looked at a small percent, 10% or less of the available evidence. I mean, he just made both statements, both claims, and they go. There are polar opposites. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Wait. Okay. Come on. All right. Who caught that? Who caught that? 504 piece, man. Who caught that? Am I by myself here? Did he just say he looks at all the evidence and just came back and said, never mind, I look at a small fraction of the evidence? Am I by myself here? Am I just making this up? I need an amen, man. Did he say that? Or am I tripping? If I'm tripping, say cap. If he said that, say no cap or amen. Give me something. Thumbs up. Did he say that?
it's very overwhelming to do. And I do so many other things. I never have the time to do it. But I went through hundreds from various text type families.
Interesting. He went through hundreds, right? Now he's gonna name like, okay, so we went from there's thousands of evidence out there. He went through 100, but he's gonna really just reference like 3. Okay. As a matter of fact, and some of the stuff he referenced, it almost comes off as they support his argument. So I don't even understand, like, why do you reference a source that goes opposite of you? It agrees with The Christian world. I'll show you.
And upon examining them, I realized that the virgin birth story is not consistent in all of these manuscripts, which means that it is one
Okay,
of
so
many
he just said there's thousands of manuscripts. He went across 100, brother. Are you? And then he said that amongst the hundreds that he went across, that the virgin birth is not consistent. So that means he came across the virgin birth in those manuscripts in the hundreds that he have seen. But then he says it's not consistent. And this is poor research. I would never do some shit like this. Listen, what about AD? D, check this out. Cousin D. What if the other thousands of manuscripts you didn't touch? What if you didn't touch them for a reason? What if the other thousands compared to the 100 that you came across actually supports the virgin birth? Now will you say it's still inconsistent? Come. Do you get what I'm saying? So if a small, he says inconsistent. That means he did come across it in the manuscripts, but then he does poor research, unthorough research, and then draw a conclusion and say it's inconsistent. Like this is poor scholarship, my boy. You need to go across the thousands, then come back and say, yeah, that thing inconsistent. How do you leave so much work to be done? Take a small sample, and draw a large conclusion. That's not how research is done. All right, let's move on. What else?
But it is the tradition that survives.
Now, this is based off the thousands of manuscripts he didn't look at. Oh my God. What are we doing? The black community, man, trying to tell you.
If you read the works of Jerome, in 393 AD, Jerome wrote a dissertation. And in Jerome's dissertation, he says, we know that the book of Matthew was originally written.
Now, when he said we know, see, now here's the language trick stuff. Which I call it, that polite guy, the gift of gab. Okay, he named Saint Jerome. Okay, then he a early founding father of Christianity, and then he go ahead, or Catholicism, and then he go ahead and say he's we. So now he's indicting other people, not by name, but just by we. Like, dude, just say, if you believe Jerome did that, say Jerome did that. How we go from singular to we? How do we go from singular to plural? We who? Jerome and what committee? What are we doing here? So we go from one guy to we. Okay, but you still got to source up on Jerome, because you're going to see. Now, I highly doubt if St. Jerome said that, but I have not done the research. That's just my, speculation there. I doubt he said that, and if I'm bored enough, maybe I'll look through it. Like, I wouldn't even know where to look, where to start. That rabbit hole research I hate doing. When somebody make a bogus claim and you try to go find it and it don't even exist, and thinking that, okay, this is going to be it where he says it, or doesn't say it, or say the opposite, and he's not talking about it. This way right here. Too close to the car. Okay. All right. So he goes from Saint Jerome to we. Now, Saint Jerome, and this is the interesting thing. His information just so all over the place. He fails to mention that Saint Jerome supports the virgin birth. I think Saint Jerome supports the Immaculate Conception. I'm not sure. I think I got something over here, one of the Wiki articles. But that's how bad this guy is. He goes to make a point. Hey, the original, Saint Jerome says the original is in Hebrew. The original Matthew is in Hebrew. Okay. So so you said to say what? So like that can almost imply that Saint Jerome, come. Hey, Yogi, Hey, tired. Come. Hey. Come over here, Yugi. Yeah, you can't go. Yeah. Where you going? Yeah. Hey, bye-bye. Bye. Yeah, come over here. Thank you. Thank you. Get your swag. Go, get your swag. Go. Run, you run. Run, you run, you run, you run. Run, you run. Run, you run, you run, you run. Run, you run. Run, you run, you run, you run. All right, I'm putting this bike thing. It's gonna be kind of hard. Come, come, come. Come. All right. So we went from St. Jerome, which is in question, to we. All right. Here we go.
And authored by Matthew. But the Greek translation, we don't know who wrote it. We don't know who translated it. We have no clue. This is what Jerome said. And Jerome is responsible for helping the Vulgate.
Jerome he had his hands over the Latin Vulgate, which is a Catholic Bible, which has the Immaculate. Well, it doesn't. He got the Virgin Birth in there, right? And Saint Jerome believes. I think he believes this is Catholicism. So I believe I believe he believes in the Immaculate Conception. Forget about the Virgin Birth. He believes in the Immaculate Conception. I believe. Okay, but definitely Virgin Birth. Okay, because Divine Prospect in another. No. Sorry, I said the wrong name. Cousin D has said in another place where Parthenos was placed in the Old Testament erroneously to say virgin birth everywhere the word virgin was there. My boy, what you think Saint Jerome did in Latin? What word he put there for virgin in Latin? All right, so now listen to some other ridiculous claims.
So he even knew during his time, he had a copy of the book of Matthew in Hebrew. And
all right, now that's cat. Now he just made that shit up. Okay? I don't know where he got that from. Now, he went to say St. Jerome believes there's a Hebrew Matthews out there. And you'll see a lot of pseudo Hebrews start saying that nowadays. But some of you will call Hebrew pseudo just by their belief alone. But we are considering their beliefs, right? So we're just saying it's even pseudoism on top of their beliefs that you like their standard beliefs you might think are pseudo, but they got pseudoisms on top of pseudoisms. Okay, so now he's saying St. Jerome had original copy of the Matthew version of the Hebrew version of Matthew, which is cat. Okay, and we're gonna show that later. All right, so oh, it's getting brisk. This thing is killing me.
He had the Greek manuscripts, and he knew from what was told to him by the Nazarenes, who was one of those sects of Jewish Christianity, and in the 4th century, they converted to accept the virgin birth. You know why?
Okay, now listen to all the claims, because when we start reading these claims, you're going to see scholars say I mean, it's okay. Spoiler alert. He's going with the pseudos of Christianity. Okay? Does that make any sense?
Because after the Nicene Council occurred, there were several other councils that happened after that, and now this Christianity ideology has now gained political favor, which means that now somebody's theology can be enforced by the sword.
Oh,
so that
shit.
means
now
if you believe or subscribe to something that's contrary to the state religion, you will be put to death, you will be excommunicated, and your works will be burnt and destroyed. So now these sects that were not killed off had to convert and either be Christians or convert and either be Yahudim. There's no in between. You had to be one of the polar opposites. So I say that, brother, to answer your question, to say My subscription is based on looking at all the available data that I have at my disposal, and from there, inducing. That means I'm not coming from a point of a presupposition.
Oh, yes, you are, my boy.
Meaning I already have a doctrine formulated in my head before I look at the evidence.
Yes, you did.
I flush that.
Yes, you did.
I take into account all the evidence, and from there, I work my way up to a hypothesis, and from a hypothesis to a thesis, and from that conclusion, I pray on it, and the Most High confirms it to me. So
that's
my stance is I don't.
So this non-scholar, who's a scholar now, he goes from a hypothesis to a thesis, and then God backs him. God stamps him. Like, you know how the Bible says God comes out and say, "This is my son, Jesus Christ. I'm so proud of him." Blah blah blah. That's what he did to cousin D. We don't know if he's De-VIL or De-VIL. So cousin D, God come out and say, "This is my son, D. I stamp him, guys. He did thorough research, and it's official. He has no bias." But wait till you see his sources. Like, he's literally referencing small group of people who scholars say are full of shit. He's going away from the consensus and going with the full of shit scholars. According to the scholars, he's going with them, with the evidence that's facing him. The overwhelming evidence that goes the other way, that the scholars agree to today. He's saying, nah, I'm going to go with the guys over here that everybody that check their work and say is uncredible. But he's flushing all that out. It'll stop it.
Don't subscribe to the virgin birth because I've looked at a myriad of evidence.
So he looked at a myriad of evidence. Remember, he said thousands of evidence out there, and he looked at a small portion of it, but he looked at a myriad of evidence. Dude, your evidence, your investigation is incomplete, my boy. Who the hell would, like, what kind of detective you would be? Like, you know what I mean? You Mark Furman.
That a lot, or data that a lot of people are not looking at because they're not aware that
the data that people are not looking at are the thousands you didn't look at. You're too busy, remember?
It exists. So my ministry is designed to bring these things to light so people can look at the same thing that I'm looking at and come to their.
Bruh, what you looked at was incomplete. You're too busy to do a thorough research on the available evidence. You don't have time, so you looked at a small portion of the available evidence and you drew a large conclusion. So you're trying to convince people to look at the little bit you looked at. You said that you looked at a few hundred as opposed to the thousands that's out there, and you drew a large conclusion. And you want in your ministries, you want that to be the practice. I mean, that's literally poor research and like some cherry pick shit.
Own conclusions, whatever the Most High convicts you to do. So I'm not saying the virgin birth is wrong altogether. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is.
Then he just said that. I mean, this guy just said that the virgin birth was pretty much added in there throughout the council of Nicaea. Whatever bullshit he just said, it's added in there. But then he's saying it's not wrong. But as I keep playing this video, he's going to come back and say it's wrong. So he's not confessing it's wrong, but the evidence that he's reading off, or not even reading off, my bad. He's not reading anything. The evidence that he's spewing off the top of his head, or maybe he is reading, is implying that the virgin birth is wrong. I mean, dude's all over the place. Yeah, it's brisk out here.
Based on my research and the data that I've acclimated and assessed and analyzed, I see that it is not a consistent tradition.
Bro, you didn't look at enough data to determine that. I gotta keep saying, you just confessed that it was thousands of manuscripts that you didn't look at. You looked at a small 100 of them. And you're drawing a hypothesis and a thesis, and somehow God is stamping you.
And it has only been consistent through Gentile converts.
Oh,
and Gentile converts are the ones that promoted this ideology. I'm gonna show you something real deep, and this will just touch on that real quick, because I know it's a sidetrack, but it's a good sidetrack. Whoever translated the book of Matthew did not.
Listen to this bullshit right here. Now, this is what this scholar concludes. I mean, I don't know if he can reference any scholar, a bad one or good one, that agrees with this bullshit. Listen what he about to say now.
Read. Whoever translated the book of Matthew did not read the Hebrew manuscript. Whoever translated the book of Matthew into Koine Greek, because if we have several church fathers, Epiphanes is another one, who all say the original book of Hebrew was written, Matthew was written in Hebrew.
Okay, so now you heard what he said, right? We're gonna read that now. So he just said that whoever, look what he said though. He said whoever translated the original Matthews in Hebrew into Koine Greek couldn't read Hebrew. So he's already, that's a straw man. He's already giving you a fact that a so-called fact, a cap fact. All right, he's giving you a cap fact that the original Matthews, right, of the Bible was in Hebrew. That's we'll see if that's true. But he's presenting it like it's true. No, come. But he's presenting like it's true. He's presenting that the original Matthews is in Hebrew. Like that's a consensus, that's a well-known fact. We'll see. And then he's calling the Greek that has Matthews a translation. So catch that. Now, scholars say, okay, it's too cold out here. Yeah, you can cry you want. We're going inside. My hands are freezing. Go down. Okay, so he's acting like Matt. It's a well-known fact among scholars that Matthews was written in Hebrew originally, and it was translated in Greek. We're going to test that. Okay, spoiler alert. The scholars agree that Matthew, the Gospels, Paul's epistles, all of that was originally written in Greek and nothing else. Okay? We're gonna read over this Hebrew shit he keeps trying to push. All right. So all the majority of scholars, with any credibility left, they agree. There's a consensus. I don't think it's like really unchallenged. It's known as a fact. All of the New Testament was written in Greek. Okay, but he keeps trying to insert over your head. Now he can pull this on, people who put scholars out there that's out there. He wouldn't dare say this. That's why when Vocab was questioning him, he was so slippery. He's like, dude, say what you said in front of your congregation. Make the same bold claims. Why are you switching shit up now? Oh no, trying to be more politically correct. Like, yo, say that same crazy shit, bro. Tell Vocab that the original New Testament was in Hebrew. Why you ain't do that? He asked the brother, do you believe that the Greek has any errors? He should have been like, well, yes, I have errors because the virgin birth is there. It's not supposed to be there because the original Hebrew don't have the virgin birth. And the original Greek, the Greek is a translation. Why did he say that? It's a translation from the Hebrew. It is cold outside. My God. One second. Let me get up from crying.
They don't know the book of Acts. And Gentile converts are the ones that promoted this ideology.
Yeah, you already know he on probation for that clear lung stuff.
I'm gonna show you something real deep, and then this will just touch on that real quick, because I know it's a sidetrack, but it's a good sidetrack. Whoever translated the book of Matthew did not read the Hebrew manuscript. Whoever translated the book of
Let me say this. Now, some of us know that you should know. If not, I got to go into some Greek history. The Greeks were highly intelligent. He sit here and say that Saint Jerome, who came later, was able to translate the Hebrew to. So now he wasn't really clear, because he can kind of mislead y'all to believe Saint James, when he translated Hebrew, he translated some New Testament stuff. No. Saint James produced the Latin Vulgate. Okay, let me show you guys what the Latin Vulgate is. Okay, Latin Vulgate Bible. Okay. I'm saying Saint James. Sorry, Saint Jerome. This is the name he gave. He gave Saint Jerome Latin Vulgate. Listen, Durain's Bible. Listen. Look what it is. Genesis, Exodus. Okay, so we got Genesis, Old Testament. I have no idea what this is. Rick. Samuel, don't know what that is. Okay. Old Testament. Okay, there is no, so now, Novum, I don't know what the hell it is, but there is no, make sure, there is no St. Jerome's preface to the Vulgate version, New Testament. So the Latin Vulgate, I believe there is St. Jerome right here, no New Testament, no Matthews. So I want you to hear his words and see how he can misrepresent St. James' work to make you believe that when he translated from the Hebrew to Latin, Divine Prospect, cousin De-VIL will almost have you believe that he translated Hebrew New Testament. So I want to just go back real fast to how he said it. Listen, just catch it. So we have 4 minutes, 48 seconds. I'll come right back here.
With several other councils that happened after that, and now this Christianity, and authored by Matthew. But the Greek translation, we don't know who wrote it. We don't know who translated it. We have no clue. This is what Jerome said. And Jerome is responsible for helping the Vulgate develop. So he even knew during his time, he had a copy of the book of Matthew in Hebrew.
Cap, okay. All right, just wait. You'll see what I'm saying, Cap. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, this is just, you could tell he would only just say this to his membership. He won't say this amongst like an op that's supposed to be like same level or that digs in it to the historicity of the Catholic Church and Christianity. He won't say that.
And he had the Greek manuscripts, and he knew from what was told to him by the Nazarenes, who was one of those sects of Jewish Christianity. And in the 4th century, they converted to accept the virgin birth. You know why? Because after the Nicene Council occurred, there were several other councils that happened after that, and now this Christianity ideology has now gained political favor, which means that now somebody's theology can be enforced by the sword. So that means if you believe you will be excommunicated, had to convert and you had to be one of the polar. My subscription is based on looking at all the inducing. I already have all the evidence. And from there, I work my way up to.
I gotta go back a little bit. I just want you to hear this.
But the Greek translation, we don't. And we wrote a dissertation. And in Jerome's dissertation, he says that survives and consistent in all of these manuscripts, which means that it is one of the works of Jerome. In 393 AD, Jerome wrote a dissertation. And in Jerome's dissertation, he says, we know that the book of Matthew was originally written in the Hebrew tongue.
Okay, so here's the first flag. If he actually had a copy of it, why do he got to say we know? Because that's a belief. And then he's saying we know. We who? If he had the original copy, I believe he would have said, I have the copy. It's in front. You guys are looking at it. This is Hebrew. Why would he say, we know, I have a copy. We know it says, if you're writing a dissertation, you're supposed to say, like, you have it and it's available, whoever wants to see it. But you'll see where I'm going.
And authored by Matthew. But the Greek translation, we don't know who wrote it. We don't know who translated it. We have no clue. This is what Jerome said. And Jerome is responsible for helping the Vulgate develop. So he even knew during his time, he had a copy of the book of Matthew in Hebrew. And
you see, he keeps saying Matthews. What about Luke, Mark, John, Paul's epistles?
And he had the Greek manuscripts, and he knew from what was told to him by the Nazarenes.
All right. So watch this. Give me a second. Watch this. Watch this.
Let us pause and remember we are in the presence of a loving God.
Rock albums, third monument since the free, and then a translation Hebrew and Greek of the Bible. For the very first time since the 4th century, the 73 books of the Bible had been translated from their original languages, Hebrew and Greek.
Okay, so he said Hebrew and Greek. Talking about Hebrew, Old Testament, Greek, New Testament.
Into a modern language, French. And then a translation from French to English was released in 1966. It was
he called Hebrew and Greek the original language of the Bible. He said they were translated into French.
Big news. Why? Well, for 1,600 years, from the 4th to the 20th centuries, all Bibles in all languages were based on a translation completed by a scholar named Jerome. St. Jerome was a Catholic monk and priest, a scholar who was born in 320 CE in what is now Croatia. At the request of Pope Damasus, he produced a new translation of the New Testament from the original Greek into Latin.
Did he say original Hebrew? Did he say Hebrew to Latin of the New Testament? Or did he say the original Greek to Latin? I mean,
in what is now Croatia. At the request of Pope Damasus, he produced a new translation of the New Testament.
Let me do that. Pope Damasus request for Saint. Let's see if we could find something. Okay, there we go. All right. Okay, letter to Jerome to. I want the other. Okay, let's see. Yeah, that's me using the Mac without a mouse. I don't know how I did this. I wish I could do this on purpose. I don't know how I did this. Create a new tab. Interesting. Okay. Somehow I got rid of it. All right. Anyway, you can see, you can Google it. All right, so Pope's Damascus letter urging him to make a new Latin translation of the four Gospels to replace the Venus Latina translation. Letter dates 33. Okay. In the epistle, Jerome agreed that the Vetus Latina translation of the four Gospels should be revised and corrected, acknowledging the numerous differences between every Latin manuscript, such that each one looked like his own version. To remedy the problem, Jerome agreed that they should be corrected on the basis of the Greek manuscripts, not the Hebrew manuscripts. The Greek New Testament, not the Hebrew New Testament. Jerome explained why the old Latin order of the Gospel, Matthew, John, Luke, Mark, should be changed to Matthew, Luke, Mark, where we have it now, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John today, because it is the order of the Greek manuscripts, because it is the order of the Greek manuscripts. Okay, so now let's listen to the brother again. I'm gonna come back here.
Vulgate developed. What 83 AD, Jerome wrote a dissertation, and in Jerome's dissertation, he says, we know that the book of Matthew was originally written in the Hebrew tongue and authored by Matthew. But the Greek translation, we don't know who wrote it. We don't know who translated it. We have no clue. This is what Jerome said. And Jerome is responsible for helping the Vulgate develop. So he even knew during his time, he had a copy of the book of Matthew in Hebrew. And he had the Greek manuscripts. And he knew from what was told to him by the Nazarenes, who was one of those sects of Jewish Christianity. And in the 4th century, they converted to accept the virgin birth. You know why?
It's a lot of stories here. Right, a lot of stories here. We didn't read that. I put the link in the chat. You got to check it out yourself. Okay, I don't read him having the Hebrew. Okay, he changed the order from Matthew, John, Luke, Mark to what we have today, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, because it is the order of the Greek manuscripts, not the Greek translation, the Greek manuscripts. Okay, not the translation from the Hebrew. Let's be clear here.
Why? Because after the Nicene Council occurred, there were several.
Okay, so let me get back to the video.
A scholar who was born in 320 CE in what is now Croatia. At the request of Pope Damasus, he produced a new translation of the New Testament from the original Greek into Latin, a task
from the original Greek into, that's what we read, to the Latin. We don't read no Hebrew here.
That took many years. He eventually translated Greek into Latin.
This line is capped. Ain't no lions sitting by him while he write the Latin Bible from Greek.
A task that took many years.
Listen.
He eventually traveled to and lived in Jerusalem, and there he learned Hebrew.
So now Divine Prospect, cousin De-VIL, cousin Divine said that the Greeks didn't translate from the Hebrew. They couldn't read Hebrew. This is a regular Latin guy who just went to live in Jerusalem, and look what he did in Jerusalem.
Jerome then went on to translate the 46 books of the Old Testament directly from Hebrew into...
Did it say New Testament? Did it say Matthew's? He translated the old. That's why I went here on y'all. He translated the Old Testament in Hebrew to Latin. This is the Old Testament in Latin. This is the Latin Vulgate. Okay. The Old. Get rid of that. Get rid of that.
To travel to and lived in Jerusalem, and there he learned Hebrew. Jerome then went on to translate the 46 books of the Old Testament directly from Hebrew into Latin. His translation of the Bible became known as the Vulgate, and it became the basis of all translations of the Bible into all languages for the next 16 centuries. From the 4th to the 20th century, Nearly every translation of the Bible into French, German, Italian, Russian, English, and all the other languages were based on St. Jerome's Vulgate. Some of you are bilingual, and you know how difficult translating from one language to another can be. There are words and expressions used in one language that simply cannot be translated into another. For example,
All right, so he's going somewhere else with that. So let me go back to, so let's get rid of some of these. We'll come back to this. Let's get back to some of these outrageous claims. But this is the last right here. 1,632 pounds of weed. See, I always watch these, bro. Listen, trying to tell y'all, if y'all written a car, that's the first red flag. Not even the U-Haul. If you're written in the car, that's the first red flag of these seasoned officers to pull your stupid ass over. If you are in Arizona major highways and you have Texas plates, Miami plates, Jersey plates, Oklahoma plates, you are getting pulled over. And it's even worse when he realized that you're not from that state where you ran the car at. So most of these crooks, these mules, most of them fly and then rent back. Most of them fly and then rent back. Once the officer extracts the information from you, you can 100% guarantee there'll be a dog sniffing the side of your car, or the police officer is going to miraculously smell marijuana and search your car. Or you're going to appear nervous to them, and they're going to do it.
Several other councils that happened after that, and now this Christianity ideology the Hebrew manuscript. Whoever quoted this ideology, I'm gonna show you something real deep, and this will just touch on that real quick, because I know it's a sidetrack, but it's a good sidetrack. Whoever translated the book of Matthew did not read the Hebrew manuscript.
Okay, so this is presupposing that there is a Hebrew manuscript of the book of Matthew. Okay, he just put that on you as it was a fact. We're gonna read about it.
Whoever translated the book of Matthew into Koine Greek, because if we have several church fathers.
Now look, he's saying whoever, like it was actually done. Dude, the Greek is called a original, is the original. Okay? Ain't no, I want to hurry up with this De-VIL-ishment.
Epiphanes is another one, who all say the original book of Hebrew was written, Matthew was written in Hebrew.
He said another one, he said another guy's another one. Now, we don't read. I haven't came across St. Jerome saying the original text was in Hebrew. We read his Wikipedia, and it looks like he understood the original Gospels were in Greek, right? We didn't read some Hebrew garbage. So I'm going to say strike that from the record. But the next name, this guy definitely made that claim. Listen.
Epiphanes is another one, who all say the original book of Hebrew.
He said, now look at the language, y'all. This dude is very slick. He said, the Epiphanes, whatever this guy's another one. Then he said, who all say, look at the words, the choice of words he's using. Who all say. Well, you just named two people. Isn't that they both say? Why are you saying who all say? Like there's just a bunch of scholars, bunch of early church fathers saying the same thing. That is some slick stuff. He named two people, only one person so far from my research, my limited research, has been titled or on record saying that. St. Jerome, I haven't found that yet. I haven't found that yet. But the other guy definitely. But then he don't say they both say it. He say they all say. That's not even proper grammar at that time, to say they all say it when it's just two people. But that's him trying to cast. He's trying to project. There's a body of early church fathers who believe Matthew's was in Hebrew originally.
Hebrew was in manuscript. Whoever translated the book of Matthew into Koine Greek, because if we have several church fathers, Epiphanes is another one, who all say the original
Now he said we got several church fathers, and he act like he just out of a. And remember, he claimed that this is not meditated. You know, he didn't think about this earlier. This just genuine research, unbiased research. And he's acting like the next thing he just pulled from a hat. You know, he just pulled from a bunch of early church fathers who believe this. He pulled out the hat the main guy. So I'm gonna go off on a limb and say he only has one guy who believes this. And you know how pseudos do? They just find one quack person and they put the whole cult movement on that person's shoulders.
You know, Book of Hebrew was written. Matthew was written in Hebrew. Whoever translated the Book of Matthew into Koine Greek, because if we have several church fathers, Epiphanes is another one, who all say the original Book of Hebrew was written. Matthew was written in Hebrew. They don't argue or disagree. They all agree it was originally written in Hebrew, but we have also some Greek translation that's floating around.
He said we got Greek translations. See his little slickness, dude. The Greek copies that said the Greek is the original. The Greek cannot be called a translation if it's the original. If the Hebrew is original, that means everything else is a translation. But we'll see. Don't worry. These Wikipedia tabs are here for a reason.
He just happened. Jerome said we don't know who wrote it. Go look it up if you don't believe me. Jerome said we don't know who translated it.
Now, look, he said we don't know who wrote it. But this dude later on is going to subscribe to the Dead Sea Scrolls. Like, we know who wrote that. So now he's basing, see, you got to understand his standard. His standard is if we don't know who wrote it, that's in question. But then he'll stamp the Dead Sea Scrolls as though he knows who wrote it. And don't worry, I got that right here. Somewhere up here. Somewhere up here. I got it up there. Don't worry.
We have no clue. So whoever translated that did not read the Hebrew. Whoever translated that translated it.
So again, he is giving you a false scenario, straw man, saying that the Greek is a translation. So he just lied, and now he's pitching it as it's actually true. Okay. So and then he's telling his membership that he got the research for them to look at, which out of his own mouth it was poor research, and it was not thorough because there's thousands of manuscripts he didn't look at. He only looked at a few hundred. Okay.
And their understanding was based on the Septuagint. And I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that. These original followers who were called Jewish Christians, especially more particularly the Ebionites, you can go look up the Gospel of the Ebionites. This is what they coined the phrase Christianity.
Okay, so he said that's the first thing we're going to research. He said the Gospel of the Ebionites. Look at Scholar D.
They call it the Gospel of the Ebionites, but that's not true. They say it's a corrupt.
Now this phony scholar says that's not true. Okay.
The version of the Hebrew book of Matthew, which is not true, but I don't have it. That's not true. They say it's a corrupted version of the Hebrew book of Matthew, which is not true, but I don't have enough time to actually go into it. But if you read it, you'll see that they don't even have Matthew chapter 1, verse 17 on the story. They just don't have that section there in their Hebrew version. It picks up at verse 3. Chapter 3. It has none of that virgin birth story. None of that is in there.
Okay, so now he's lying like these guys got a Hebrew copy of Matthew's. And remember, if they got a Hebrew copy, that means the Greek is a translation. So that means the Greek is demoted. Has to be. Because the Hebrew is before the Greek. So if they got it in Hebrew, that means the Greek is demoted. Okay.
In the Hebrew manuscripts that those Ebionites had in their possession. They didn't have none of that. It was the same way that we have the book of Mark. And the book of Mark doesn't have the virgin birth story in it.
Let's start with the Ebionites. Okay, so remember, he doesn't subscribe to the virgin birth because of his lackluster research from his own mouth. He said there are 1,000 manuscripts, and he hadn't had a chance to look at 1,000 because he's been so busy. So he looked at a few hundred, small portion of the thousands. Okay, how many thousands? 8,000, 10,000, 100,000? How many thousands? But you looked at a few hundred, and we know, a few hundred, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a few hundred. Okay, so but he's confessing to limited research, but he's giving you a large conclusion of unfinished, lack thereof research. What kind of researcher, what kind of investigator, what kind of journalistic work is that? That's some Mark Furman stuff. All right, so let's look at the Ebionites. All right. Let's look at the Gospel of the Ebionites. Now, we heard the pseudo scholar D. Let's look at it. All right. So, the Gospel of the Ebionites is the conventional name given by scholars. So, scholars named it that, to an apocryphal gospel extant only as 7 brief quotations in heresiology. Now, this is not a good word. In theology or the history of religion, heresiology is the study of heresy, and heresiographies are written about a topic. Heresiographical works here common in both medieval Christianity and Islam. Okay. Known as the Parnarian by Epiphanius of Salamis. What did he do? He misidentified it as the Hebrew gospel. He misidentified it as the Hebrew gospel, but cousin D calls it the Hebrew gospel. Who's saying this? The scholars are saying this. Scholars are saying this clown misidentified this gospel of Ebionites as the Hebrew gospel, believing it to be a truncated and modified version of the Gospel of Matthew. Okay, source right here. The quotations were embedded in a polemic to point out inconsistencies in the belief and practices of a Jewish Christian sect known as the Ebionites, relative to Nicene orthodoxy. The surviving fragments derive from a gospel harmony of the synoptic gospels composed in Greek, with various expansions and abridgments reflecting the theology of the writer. Distinctive features include the absence of the virgin birth. This is what Divine was talking about, okay? So now they conveniently don't have the virgin birth, and they don't even got the genealogy of Jesus. And adoptionist Christology, you don't have that either, in which Jesus is chosen to be God's son at the time of his baptism. The abolition of the Jewish sacrifices by Jesus and advocacy of vegetarianism. This is what they said. Now we good. Okay. The omission of the genealogical records and the virgin birth of Jesus narratives is explained by Epiphanius as being because they insist that Jesus was really a man. So this is why he took it out. He took it out not because it was an error or was false. It was plagiarized in there, added in there by the council. And I see all this crap that cousin D said. He said because they insisted Jesus was really a man. So I don't know if he's talking about the people of the book or the people that cousin D said will pressure you to pick a side. Okay. And the sides were Christianity or Judaism. So if these are talking about people outside the book, then obviously this would be people that were not Christians saying he was just a man. Watch this. It is believed to have been composed sometime during the middle of the 2nd century in or around the region east of the Jordan River. Although the gospel was said to be used by Ebionites during the time of the early church, the identity of the group or groups that used it remains a matter of conjecture. The gospel of the Ebionites is one of several Jewish Christian Gospels, along with the Gospel of the Hebrews and the Gospel of the Nazarenes, all survive only as fragments in quotations of the early church fathers. Okay, so they all survive. What you have is fragments in quotations. Due to their fragmentary state, the relationships, if any, between the Jewish Christian Gospels and a hypothetical original Hebrew Gospel. Okay, what is that? The hypothetical gospel hypothesis is that a lost gospel written in Hebrew, this is what De-VIL was co-signing. It's called the Hebrew gospel hypothesis, is that a lost gospel, and this is all his research, he said he did no research, written in Hebrew or Aramaic predated the four. So this is the claim that a Hebrew gospel had predated, written in Hebrew or Aramaic has predated the four canonical gospels in Greek. In the early 18th and early 19th century, several scholars suggested that a Hebrew proto-gospel was the main source or one of the several sources for the canonical gospels. Okay, so we could, let me finish reading that. Okay, this theorizing would later give birth to the two-source hypothesis that view Q as a proto-gospel, but believes this proto-gospel to have been written in Koine Greek. After the widespread scholarly acceptance of the two-source hypothesis, scholarly interest in the Hebrew, so they accepted the Koine Greek as the original source. Now, they're going to focus on the Hebrew gospel hypothesis. So now, scholarly interest in the Hebrew gospel hypothesis dwindled. As this was confirmed, like, yep. This one dwindled. Like most, that's like germ theory and terrain theory. As germ theory is widely accepted, terrain theory dwindled. And now pseudos today will try to resurrect. They try to resurrect this. Modern variants of the Hebrew gospel hypothesis survive, but have not found favor with scholars as a whole. So I don't know what De-VIL is talking about. The foundation of the Hebrew gospel hypothesis is usually an early Christian tradition from the 2nd century bishop. This is the guy. This is the guy that De-VIL said. Okay, so this is the guy he acted like he pulled out of a hat. Okay, when he named that name, Papias of Hierapolis. This is a name he said, hey man, many people at the time said it was a Hebrew gospel. And then he threw his name out as though he was like one of many. This might be the only guy. Okay, according to Papias, Matthew the apostle was the first to compose a gospel, and he did so in Hebrew. Okay, this is the guy De-VIL act like he threw out of a hat. Papias appeared to imply, he indirectly stated that this Hebrew or Aramaic gospel, sometimes called the authentic Matthew, was subsequently translated into the canonical gospel of Matthew. Jerome took this information one step further and claimed, so now this is what De-VIL is going into. St. Jerome took this information one step further and claimed that all known Jewish Christian gospels really were one and the same. And this gospel was the authentic Matthew. As a consequence, he assigned all known quotations from Jewish Christian gospels to the gospels of the Hebrews. But modern, here it says out, but modern studies shown this to be untenable. Now, this part he's not going to quote. He's going to quote the exceptions, two guys running with something. Modern scholars say, nah. The hypothesis has some overlap with the Aramaic original New Testament theory, which posits gospels originally written in Aramaic rather than Hebrew. Okay, so now he's saying it's in Aramaic and not Hebrew. Modern versions of the Hebrew gospel hypothesis often overlap with the Augustinian hypothesis. So basis of the Hebrew gospel hypothesis, Papias and the early church. The The idea that Matthew wrote a gospel in a language other than Greek begins in Papias of. So it starts with him. This is the guy that Cousin D act like he just pulled out of a hat when he said so many out there, several. Even Papias is one of them. This is the main guy. In a passage with several ambiguous phrases, he wrote, Matthew collected the oracles, logio, saying of or about Jesus in the Hebrew language, perhaps alternatively Hebrew style, and each one interpreted them as best he could. Some have claimed that by Hebrew, Papias would have meant Aramaic. So, Divine, they're saying like when he was saying Hebrew, he was talking about Aramaic. The common language of the Middle East beside Koine Greek. A 2014 survey of contemporary texts asserts that Hebridi meant Hebrew and never Aramaic. Nevertheless, Matthew's Greek reveals none of the telltale marks of a translation. Against this, Blomberg writes that Jewish authors like Josephus, writing in Greek while at times translating Hebrew materials, often leave no linguistic clues to betray their Semitic sources. Although Josephus was an exceptionally unusual person in his knowledge of Greek, Aramaic, and Hebrew, most scholars do not believe that Matthew is a translation, and several theories have been put forward to explain Papias. Perhaps Matthew wrote two gospels, one now lost in Hebrew, the other in preserved Greek version. Now look at the conspiracy now to explain why you don't have, it says now lost. So Cousin D was saying, we don't know who wrote the original Greek, throw it out. Dude, you don't have a current Hebrew in Matthew. So to explain that, they're saying that the Hebrew one is now lost, and the only one we have now is the Greek version, or perhaps the Logio was a collection of sayings rather than a gospel. Some have suggested it is in fact Q, which is the Greek, or by dialectoi, Papias may have meant that Matthew wrote in the Jewish style rather than in the Hebrew language. So now they're saying that Papias probably wasn't even claiming that the original book of Matthew was in Hebrew. They're saying that he might have been saying that he wrote it in a Jewish style and not in a Hebrew language. Nevertheless, on the basis of Papias and other information, Jerome claimed that all the Jewish Christian communities shared a single gospel, the so-called gospel of the Hebrews. This is St. Jerome's claim. That was, okay, so look. Now, is Jerome claiming to have it, like Divine said? He's claiming that all the Jewish Christian communities shared a single gospel that was practically identical with the Hebrew or Aramaic Matthew. He also claimed to have personally found this gospel in use among some communities in Syria. So he's claiming, so that claim divine prospect for Jerome is Jerome definitely was capping. He was saying that for himself. Jerome's testimony is regarded with skepticism by modern scholars. Jerome claimed to have seen a gospel in Aramaic that contained all the quotation he assigned to it. So now you have a problem here, prospect. These are claims. Watch this. Demonstration beats conversation. But it can be demonstrated that some of them could never have existed in a Semitic language. But it can be demonstrated that some of them could have never existed in a Semitic language. His claim to have produced all the translations himself is also suspect and cap, as many are found in earlier scholars such as Origen and Eusebius. Jerome appears to have signed these quotations to the Gospel of the Hebrews. This guy plagiarized it. But it appears more likely that there were at least 2 and probably 3 ancient Jewish Christian Gospels, and only one of them in a Semitic language. Okay, I think that's it on that. Yeah, I think we're going to make sure. Yeah, okay, cool. So these are other people. Okay, cool. All right, so we are done there. So you see a lot of cat a lot of cat. He was making bold statements, and this stuff by scholars is thrown out, or they're having doubts on it. These are just claims by Jerome. It cannot be demonstrated, and then well, it was demonstrated that they cannot have existed in the Semitic language. Okay, so pseudos always go to the exception. All right, hold on. Let me add this in the chat. Let me add this in the chat. Shoot. Let me add that. So you put that in the chat for y'all to read. Okay.
What's the word?
Hey, peace, man. Just showing how pseudos misrepresent information. They start giving skepticism and doubtful information as facts. And people make claims and they misrepresent it as facts. So we're fact checking.
What you going over though? What you going over?
I'm going over this man claims in this video right here.
Okay. Okay.
The founder of Kingdom Harbinger Ministries.
Oh, you still on the divine.
Well, we don't know if he's divine or De-VIL. Okay, we're trying to find out which one he is, and we're going over his claims. So the last time I just played it, I just played it. I never researched this stuff before, but I know pseudos died at their source. So I said, you know what? Let me. So I watched it again today, and I said, let me start looking this stuff up. So as I'm looking it up, we're seeing a lot of his claims don't stand up. All right. So okay. So let me continue with so remember, he said Matthew's written in Hebrew. You don't believe that. I don't believe that. And apparently modern scholars don't believe that garbage either. So right. This is the Hebrew gospel hypothesis. So the Hebrew gospel hypothesis is that a lost gospel written in Hebrew or Aramaic predated the I think I read this. Yeah, I read this. Let me kick this out. I read this. Yeah, so scholars basically say this is cap. All right. Okay, so are we here? Yeah, I think he's going to name Shintab's Hebrew Gospel Matthew. Okay. So this is the claim that Hebrew of Gospel was in. There was a Hebrew Gospel of Matthew. Okay, so Shem Tov's Hebrew Gospel of Matthew is the oldest extant Hebrew version of the Gospel of Matthew. It was included in the 14th century work. 14th century. Ibn Bohan, the touchstone by the Spanish Jewish rabbi Shem Tov ben Isaac ben Shipru. George Howard. He argued that Shem Tov's Matthew comes from a much earlier Hebrew text than was later translated into Greek and other languages. A characteristic feature of this gospel is the appearance of 20 places, Hashem, the name. Okay, so let's let me see if this might be going to something else. I want to make sure. Okay. So, all right, so let's read this. Origin. Shem Tov ben Isaac, Ibn Shepru, was the author of an anti-Christian religious treatise, The Touchstone, completed in 1380 and revised in 1385 and 1400. Often referred to as the logic of Shem Tov. It argues against the belief that Jesus is God. It also argues against attributing the role of Messiah to Jesus. For this reason, Shem Tov's Hebrew Gospel of Matthew, which included in this work, is considered the oldest surviving text of a New Testament book in Hebrew. In 1987, George Howard said that the translation of the Gospel of Matthew in Shem Tov's work long predates the 14th century and may better represent the original text. His view was rejected by W.L. Peterson and Peter Lumain. A refutation of the theory that Shem Tov's Hebrew version of Matthew represents the original Hebrew. Okay, so we don't need to read this because we already know that. They already talking about that this is some later garbage that he put in Hebrew, and he's claiming this is close to a mythical ancient Hebrew that the scholars say never happened. So we don't need to read that anymore. Okay, we're gonna come back to this. We're gonna come back to that. Okay, I think this was the Dead Sea Scrolls. I think that's why I went here. Okay, so I think I went here for a reason. I want to show the Dead Sea Scrolls, I believe. I'm not sure why I clicked this. That's why you have all these research. Like if you don't write it down, and plus it's the first time reading some of this stuff, so I forgot why I got this here. I think it was for the Dead Sea Scrolls. Let me make sure. I see Paul's epistles here. I'm not sure why I got this here. What was I looking for? I might see it and remember. I'm not. I will leave it up because maybe if he start talking, I will see why I pulled this up. Okay, but I believe everything here, just confirming that the New Testament was definitely in Greek originally.
Okay.
Yeah, Bible manuscript. Yes, so it's just going over. Yes, it's just going over the history of the Hebrew right there, and this is gonna go into the Greek. All right, we got Dead Sea Scrolls here. Okay, so I don't know why that's there. I'm gonna leave it there, but we got Dead Sea Scrolls. So I wanted to read this. So it says the Qumran Essene theory holds that the scrolls were written by the Essenes or by another Jewish sectarian group. So it don't name, they don't know. Residing at Khirbet Qumran. They composed the scrolls and ultimately hid them in the nearby cave during the Jewish revolt sometime between 66 and 68. And so according to Divine, because you don't know exactly who wrote these, we got to throw it out. That was his portion of his logic. All right, so we're here. Okay, so this was the Ebionites. Okay, so I already showed them. Let me just put this in the chat in case I didn't. All right. Ebionites. And I call them now. I call the one Westerners the Hebrew Ebionites, not the Israelites, because the Ebionites were New Testament Hebrews that believe that the gospel was written in Hebrew first. And there's no research to back that up. Okay, so I'm gonna deal with Paul a little later, and let's see what else this guy got. Where is he at? Okay, here we go. He made a lot of bold claims. And what's interesting, this is for SMH in the chat who just came in here, which I will play back. So it's 6:10. Let me go back. So I'm at 6 minutes, 10 seconds. Let me just play his exact words. Listen to this.
And I don't, because I don't just look at what we have today, thousands of manuscripts, all the available evidence, because I don't just look at what we have today known as the Bible. I look through history, and I do what's called textual criticism, which means that I look at all the available evidence because...
SMH, did he say he look at all the available evidence? Did you hear that part? No, you didn't catch it? Hey, chat, did he say he looks at all the available evidence? Yes or no? Did he say, before I press play, I need you guys to confirm or say that didn't happen? Did he say he looks at all of the available evidence? Try Nehemiah, Gordon, Hebrew, Matt. Let me see. Yeah, put the link in there. So I don't pull up all these windows, all these tabs, because my thing will start freezing. Okay, so one more time.
It's called textual criticism, which means that I look at all the available evidence because there's not one manuscript for the New Testament, just like this.
So he look at all the available evidence, and then he's going to in a matter of like 10 seconds, change his mind and go the opposite way. And say he looks at little to a very small, tiny portion of all the available evidence.
There's not one manuscript for the Tanakh or the Torah. There's thousands of manuscripts. Thousands. I've went through a couple of hundred. I haven't.
Okay, so now he changes his mind. He first of all looked at all of the evidence. Then he tells you that all the evidence composed to about 1,000 manuscripts, and he looked at a small, tiny 100, maybe 100 of that small, tiny portion of the thousands, little as 100. He only looked at hundreds out of thousands of manuscripts of evidence. And he was able to draw this conclusion. Look at this. I mean, this is, I don't understand who can't get this. This is horrible research. If a pharmaceutical company had a drug out there, you guys would be mad as hell if they did a whole bunch of testing on people and they tested on thousands of people, but they only looked at 100 of those 1,000. And they said, okay, good to go. And they ignored the other 900. Like what happened to them? Symptoms, reactions, whatever. Y'all be mad as hell if they did that. This brother just confessed. And then he had the nerve to say, it's good to go. Let's bring it to market.
Been gone through all of thousands. It's just very overwhelming to do. And I do so many other things. I never have the time to do it. But I went through hundreds.
So now he doesn't have the time to do thorough research. But then he says, but I looked through 100. So meaning that I don't have the time to do thorough research, but the little bit of research I did is enough to draw a conclusion and build my ministry on. You can't make this up. But this only happens when amongst the pseudos. So let's go back.
Book of Mark doesn't have the virgin birth story in it. The book of John doesn't have the virgin birth. Matter of fact, the epistles of Shaul or Paul, who was the largest proponent of promoting the deity of Yahusha, he never mentions the virgin birth. And when we do textual analysis of
the gospel are there are 4 books that makes the gospel up. Okay, yeah, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So he conveniently named 3. So he said 2 of the 3 don't have it. He says the one has it, but he didn't mention the last one, which is Luke. I mean, like, this is just not honest dialogue. Just say, yo, there's 4 gospels, half of them say the virgin birth is just don't have it in there. Say something like that. And then say even Paul's epistles don't have it. But to sit there and name 3 out of 4, like, he's always swinging the odds. But then he says he's not biased somehow.
Text in the scholarly realm, they've determined that the Pauline epistles is earlier than the synoptic gospels. And
okay, so now let's deal with that. So now he's trying to make a pseudo claim off that. He says, so even the scholars determined that the Pauline epistles were earlier than the gospels. But what's your point? Okay, so let's look at it. The Pauline epistles, also known as epistles of Paul or letters of Paul, are the 13 books of the New Testament attributed to Paul the apostle, although the authorship of some is in dispute. Among these epistles are some of the earliest extant Christian documents. They provide an insight into the beliefs and controversies of early Christianity as part of the canon of the New Testament. They are foundational texts for both Christian theology and ethics. Many scholars believe that Paul actually wrote 7 of the Pauline epistles: Galatians, Romans, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Philemon, Philippians, and 1 Thessalonians, while 3 of the epistles in Paul's name are widely seen as pseudepigraphic: 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, and Titus. Whether Paul wrote the 3 other epistles in his name, 2 Thessalonians, Ephesians, and Colossians, is widely debated. According to some scholars, here we go, Paul wrote the questionable letters with the help of a secretary or amanuensis, who would have influenced their style if their theological content. The epistle to the Hebrews, okay, I was looking down. I was trying to find the claim he said these are written earlier than the gospel. I'm looking for that. The Pauline, I'm looking at the bottom, the last paragraph. The Pauline epistles are usually placed between the Acts of the Apostles and the Catholic epistles in modern editions. Most Greek manuscripts place the general epistles first and a few minuscules and the Pauline epistles at the end of the New Testament. So he's just saying, like, today's Bibles, you got the Gospels first, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John first, and Apostle Paul epistles afterwards. But however, I want to read what he said. Okay, but anyway, as I'm trying to on the fly find it. So anyway, scholars do say that Apostle Paul's epistles were written earlier, 30 years after the death of Jesus, and they were written earlier before the gospel. So that was indigenous. That was Cousin D claim, but then he gave a spooky conspiracy on why. Okay. So okay, but how about this? In the Old Testament, they say the book of Job was probably the first written in the Old Testament. So it says, why doesn't it appear before Genesis? So somebody here in Korah says that the book of Job was possibly written before Genesis. So according to Divine Prospect, if it's written before, then the book's listed before that one, there's a problem. Okay, so what reason could there be that the epistle of Paul's were written before the gospel? What reason there could be? So let's go here. Just selective research. Okay, so this is exactly what Divine Prospect claims were. So it's borrowed claims, obviously. And I'm going to show you where most of the arguments come from. So most Bible, he says, question, most Bible scholars agree that Paul's letters are the oldest portion of the New Testament, i.e. these were written before the Gospels. Why then does Paul not mention the virgin birth, not mention any miracles, not mention mention the empty tomb? Why does Paul cite a spiritual resurrection but not speak of a physical resurrection? If Judas committed suicide, then why does Paul state in 1 Corinthians 15:5 that Christ appeared to 12 apostles? Okay. So Raymond Brown, a renowned New Testament scholar, answers this very question. Let me make it bigger so y'all can see. So Raymond Brown, a renowned New Testament scholar, answers this very question in the first chapter of his book, An Introduction to the New Testament. The early Christians were slow in writing down the stories of Jesus' life because they believed that Jesus would return soon. They believed he would be returning soon. Remember, he just died. So they saw no need to write the Gospels. It was no accident then that Paul's letters, which addressed immediate pressing problems or controversies, because things were going on right then and there, turned out to be the first Christian writings we had, because he was writing to specific audiences with particular issues in mind. He was resolving them. It resulted in a less than systematic portrayal of Jesus' life, because he's addressing the churches. For example, when writing to a church that he had founded, if there were no current controversies about the virgin birth or Jesus' miracles, he wouldn't have felt the need to address them. It was meaning that they accepted it. To give an example, on the flip side, Paul only mentions the Eucharist once in all of his letters, or Eucharist once in all his letters, and it was only because the church at Corinth was experiencing abuses at the Eucharistic meal. Okay, Paul, who we must remember, never met the living Jesus and was only writing that he had heard about him orally, penned his letters in the 50s of the first century because the Gospels hadn't yet been written. It stands to chance that Paul simply hadn't heard all of the many details offered in the Gospels. It was only after the most famous eyewitnesses Jesus died, Peter, Paul, and James, probably around the mid-60s, that the Gospel began to be written down, offering a much more systematic and chronological account of Jesus' birth, life, and physical death and resurrection. This timing also explains why there might be some discrepancies between what Paul wrote concerning Christ appearing to the 12 and what Matthew claimed was Judas in suicide. Okay. So now, if Divine is really showing everything, he'll be showing this, right, in his ministries, on his website somewhere. to let people decide for themselves. All right, so let's go back to the wild plants. We get rid of that. Oh, I should have sent that in the chat. Damn it, I could Google that.
Book of Yakinon John. So if Paul's writings precedes the laying down of the synoptic gospels, and he does not mention a virgin birth, that means that there is more than one tradition that is being maintained concurrently.
So if this scholar is giving his unscholarly, this fake scholar giving his unscholarly opinions about what's going on. So that's why I showed you Job. They're saying, some people are saying Job was written before Genesis. So according to him, if Job don't explain God making man and all those other things as just the first book, then we could discount everything God said in Genesis and Adam, and we could just the genealogy of Adam, we could just discount all that because Job don't talk about the none of that stuff. Okay, so I mean, but that's his logic, though. All right.
Or simultaneously, I'm of the tradition that was an interpolation by the translator of the Greek manuscript.
Bro, we're not interested in your findings, my boy. Like zero. Okay. You might be a scholar to your people, but you're not a scholar to the outside world. To your cult, you might be the top guy, head high priest, but to the rest of the world, you're just D, cousin D.
Based on what I've assessed and the data that I have acclimated. And I have a lecture coming up where I give out all my information.
Hey, good point, LCK, which is damaging because Paul simply calls Jesus Christ the Son of God. Yeah, so you see how selective he is? When you even read the word Son of God, Son of Joseph, when you even read those words are in the Gospels he's thrown out. You don't read Jesus being the son of Joseph in nowhere. Good point, LCK. No, that's why I like you guys. That's why I invite you guys. Well, I invite you guys, but you guys come anyway. And I like that because you guys add insight. Yeah, he doesn't say at all remotely close to Jesus being the son of Joseph. Like he calls him son of God, alluding back to the virgin birth.
It's called immaculate deception, and I give out all my information. It's called immaculate deception.
I haven't found that, but I did find this, which I played yesterday. It's called How the Immaculate Conception. I haven't found Divine Prospect, Immaculate Deception. I'll try again, but I haven't found that because he claimed he'll give it up. He'll give up all his sources, and that's the problem with him. Like he's making all these heavy claims, but we don't see any sources. And when he does a presentation, we don't hear any of these claims. So he don't even show that. All right, so Divine Prospect, Divine Prospect. What that say? Here we go. She already typed it in there. Where is it? So this is the video I watched of his that I confused with the virgin birth. Okay, it was about Esau. All right, so where is the immaculate deception? We see immaculate conception. And where we watched that. Yeah, I just don't see it. And like maybe I gotta play, you know what? I'm gonna play some of this because I want to see if he was ever straight. Let's see polite.
At the individuals that is depicted in his Nuwapic book, you'll see that all the prophets that he had spoken about when he was doing a lot of his teachings. I have so much Malachi Z work because in order for you to be a great teacher, you have to teach unbiasedly and objectively from your opponent's perspective like it's your own. And until you can do that, you can never present objective scholarship. So in reading this book, I see that Malachi Z York, I don't know if you can see it, if you can zoom in, but Malachi Z York, he actually depicted all of the prophets as being black. Now, why is this? Because he had an understanding similar to what Dr. Ben had to understand, is that indigenous people created the system, and when invasion occurred, things started to that all of us can come together with
Now, these are two guys that be talking and saying a lot, but not saying anything. Two guys.
Made about us in America, many of which doesn't speak to each brother and sister. Unfortunately, because of media, right? And every culture has a form of media or publicity, or that which helps.
I'm not interested. They're not saying that there. Let me go back.
And I give out all that information that I have so you can sift through the same things that I sifted through and see if you come to the same conclusion or a different one. Whatever it is, that's your personal conviction with the Most High. I'm not here to tell you you're wrong. I'm just showing you what I looked at and what convinced me to stand on what I subscribe to be the truth, right? And I'm very careful with my words. What I subscribe to be the truth. I never definitively speak on behalf of the Most High because I can change in 5 years from now. Because the Most High reveals something to me or I come across something new. So I tell you where I stand today, and based on my research, subscription, and being led as much as I am to this information, I don't subscribe to the virgin birth because in Matthew chapter 1, going to verse 18 on, again, Matthew chapter 1 and 17, if you go to and I'm going to give you a reference, if you go to the Syriac Sinaiticus.
Okay, so now this is another bogus. So everywhere he goes to as a reference, it checks out either he's misrepresenting it, it's total false, or it doesn't exist. So so I showed this yesterday. I'll show it again. So watch this. So he's just saying stuff. He's not, demonstration beats conversation. He's just saying stuff. He's not proving anything. All right, so and I watched like two other of his, like the one last night, I fell asleep. But the second one I played, I did not fall asleep early in the day. And he still ain't demonstrate much. He showed Mark chapter 12, verse 49, and he wouldn't touch the virgin birth. Like he's like very careful on not touching it in any of his presentations. He'll gloss by it, but he won't go into depth on it. He's very careful. Right now, I'm just trying to pull it up. Hold on. Okay, I know where I hit it. All right, let me grab it. Hold on. I remember. I sent it to Smile in the inbox. Let me go to my Facebook. But this guy is seriously reaching, and it's embarrassing. Hold on. Just give me a second. I don't want to show my personal inbox, you dig? Okay, I found it. Okay, I just want to save it where I'll have to go back to my inbox for it. So you gotta see in my personal inbox. All right. All right, hold on. So what you're looking at, this is supposed to be coming from the Syriac Sinaiticus, the translation. The Syriac Sinaiticus is a Syriac translation from the Koine Greek. It's not from a Matthew. It's not from a Hebrew. It's not translated from a Hebrew copy of Matthew. Okay, which the Phantom Hebrew nobody has. This is supposed to be translated from a Greek original, which I don't even believe that. So he's going to quote. Look at verse 16. Okay, so he's going to say that what we're looking at is from the Syriac Sinaiticus. Now this is clearly English. All right, that's like me grabbing a King James English version and say we're looking at the Latin Vulgate. Okay, so this is what he's trying to pull over our eyes. He's telling us as we're looking at English words, we see Solomon here, we see begot Rehoboam. Okay, but he's going to convince us that this is Syriac Sinaiticus, or this is in the language Syriac. Listen to this guy.
Look there, on verse 18 on. Again, Matthew chapter 1 and 17. If you go to and I'm going to give you a reference. If you go 16. To the Sinaiticus, Syriac Sinaiticus, look it up. Syriac, Syriac, Sinaiticus, Sinaiticus. That is a manuscript that is written in the Syriac, just like the Peshitta is written in the Syriac. When you read Matthew chapter 1, verse 17 there, you know what it says?
Well, you're not reading it there. You're reading it in English. This is an English translation of what you believe come from a Syriac translation, which is supposed to come from a Greek translation. So Greek original copy. So wherever so there's a couple problems here. He got to first demonstrate that beats the conversation. So he got to show us the Syriac translation. What original text were they looking at? So we can confirm that it says what they says in Greek. Then he got to show us a Syriac version. Like we're looking at the grandson. We're looking at a translation, but this is a double translation. This is English. But he's acting like he's reading Syriac. Watch this.
Syriac. When you read Matthew chapter 1, verse 17 there, you know what it says? Yosef.
He keeps saying 17. He means 16. And look what he's saying. He's saying Yosef. This is clearly Joseph. So now it's a triple translation because now he's adding his own translation to it. You know, this does not say Yosef. This says, so he's going to start from right here. He's going to go from here. So he keeps saying 17, but he means 16. So he's going to start here, Joseph, okay? So look what he said. He's going to say Joseph. He made that up. It says Joseph. But remember, it wouldn't be saying Joseph in Syriac, would it? All right, here we go.
When you read Matthew chapter 1, verse 17 there, you know what it says? Yosef begot Yahusha. But when you read Matthew chapter 1, verse 17, and the Greek manuscript, it don't say that.
Hell no.
That's interesting. And do you know?
Minute. So so the Syriac is okay, let's go. Again, I don't know why. Wow. I ain't even pressed that. Okay, so I don't know why I got this here, but let's do this. Let's do this. Come on, man. Why is that there? Okay, let's do this. Oh my God, man. Okay. All right. The Syriac Sinaiticus or Codex Sinaiticus, Syriac, known as the Sinaitic Palimpsest of St. Catherine's Monastery, or Old Syriac Gospels, is a late fourth or early 5th century manuscript of 179 folios containing a nearly complete translation. This is a translation of the four. So it's telling that it was translated into, look, containing a nearly complete translation of the four canonical gospels of the New Testament into Syriac. So that means it was in something else. It was translated into Syriac. This is a translation, okay, that he keep misrepresenting as the original. Okay, so now let's hear this guy. So that's why, if it's a translation, well, we know it's a translation. What was it translate? What was? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't share my screen. Hold up, share my screen. I hate when I do that. All right. Okay, here we go. I'm here. Sorry about that. The Syriac Sinaiticus or Codex Sinaiticus. All right. It is a Gospels, old Syriac Gospels, is the late 4th or 5th century. It's even entertaining 5th century manuscript of 179 folios containing a nearly complete translation of the four canonical Gospels of the New Testament into Syriac. So that means it was in something before Syriac. Okay. It was in something before Syriac. Now, I wonder if it's going to tell you. Let's see. So its conformity with the Greek and Latin has been debated. So it doesn't agree with the, it doesn't conform with the Greek and Latin. And they, okay. So his revision is said skillfully moved the Peshitta nearer to the Greek text. So the Peshitta is also, I believe, is Syriac, and the Peshitta is like damn near word for word with the Greek. Okay. So it says the importance of such early least conforming texts is emphasized by the revision of the Peshitta that was made about 508, ordered by Bishop, blah, blah, blah. All right. The Sinaiticus. So this is another name for the Codex Sinaiticus, the Sinaitic pamphlets. Immediately became a central document in tracing the history of the New Testament. The pamphlet's importance lies especially in making the Greek New Testament manuscripts understandable to Aramaic-speaking communities. So they made the Greek New Testament manuscripts understandable to these guys. So they read it. So they translated it in Syriac. Okay, that's what we're reading right there. Okay. All right. So I believe, yeah. So that's all I want to highlight. That it is supposedly translated from the Greek. And if it's translated from the Greek, divine, out of all those hundreds of Greek texts that you read, which one of those do you believe said Joseph begot Jesus? I'm gonna tell you, my boy, it's not in there. All right. So let's go back. Hold on. All right. So all that to say, he's not reading Syriac. He's reading English here. Okay, he's reading English here, but he's acting like this is Syriac.
Oh, that in Matthew chapter 1, verse 17.
So what I want him to do is demonstrate over conversate. What I can easily do is I can go to the Greek manuscripts, and I can show you the oldest Greek manuscript, which is the hold on, come. What you doing? Come. Is the Codex Sinaiticus. That's the that's the oldest Greek text on the New Testament, and I can show you there. I can demonstrate there that it says Mary gave birth to Jesus without a Joseph. I think Cousin D will admit that. I think he'll go that far to admit that. So what I need him to do is demonstrate that the Syriac says Joseph begot Jesus, which he's not going to be able to do unless he reads Syriac. So he can't do that, but he's saying that. And then he's showing us an English translation of a Syriac translation from supposedly the original Greek that doesn't have Joseph begot Jesus. So I hope y'all following. I hope y'all can comprehend what I'm saying. So we do have that dialogue. If he ever hops, he ever pulls up, you can when I mention that, you guys can follow. All right. So he's quoting this in English. He's not quoting it in Syriac. So I'm going to brainwash you and become a member of his cult.
Begot Yahusha.
And it does not say Yahusha in the English translation of the Syriac translation. You're just adding more of this.
But when you read Matthew chapter 1, verse 17, and the Greek manuscript, it don't say that. That's interesting. And do you know where the majority of the manuscripts that our English translation is translated from? The Byzantine text type. Do you know what the Byzantine text type is? It's what's called the majority text. And do you know when that became popular? During the Middle Ages, when Christianity moved its home base to Byzantium in Turkey. So,
shit! Here comes the conspiracy theory. So when you find it in Greek, so when you find it in Syriac, it's no conspiracy theory. It's an English translation, but that's no big deal. But when you actually read it in Koine Greek, ancient Greek, when you actually read it in that, there's a conspiracy theory. Yeah, you can never win, and you see that when I talk to these guys. Their standard for proof is very little. Mine, I gotta read it verbatim. I cannot add an exegesis. I cannot tie scriptures together. I cannot use context clues. I can't do none of that. If I have a belief or an answer, it better be verbatim, chapter, verse, or it's thrown out, according to these guys. This guy, Cousin D, he can present stuff that's suspect. Scholars agree, modern scholars say bull, but he could present it anyway. Two people, two manuscripts, or two claims. Pseudo information, gospel that does not exist. He keeps saying Matthew, Hebrew, can't find it. It's supposedly lost, but he's able to bring that to evidence. So basically, the lack of evidence is evidence for Cousin D. All right.
By the time we get to Byzantium in Turkey, we have interpolations in manuscripts that we don't find in the Alexandrian text type, which is much earlier, which is found in Alexandria in Egypt.
Oh, shit.
So when they moved, a different ideology started to emerge because there were successive councils with.
And the thing is, like, he says so many conspiracy stories that you can't just say he's wrong. So you're forced to read up on it. That's going to take a lot of time. So you know what I mean, you got to ignore it. Some stuff, some claims, you got to let them just like, I'll get to that later. Because this is what happens with these pseudo claims. It happened with the vaccine discussions. They make all claims. We read all these articles just to find out it agrees with us. But it'd be a long 2-day reading, you dig? Because we really don't have time to sit there and read for an hour. And we're not scientists. We got to define all these words and see what they mean in context, blah, blah, blah. So much stuff to do. So that's what he's doing. Like, he's sending you on goose chases, knowing you're not going to have all the energy to counter or respond to all of his claims.
Rulings on creeds that was put out forth by the Roman Catholic Church. And the manuscripts had to align themselves with these rulings. And then from those Byzantium text type family manuscripts came the majority text, which was what's called the received text. The Textus Receptus, which is a Greek manuscript that was based on Stephanos, Beza, and Erasmus, and their Greek manuscripts. The translators looked at all these Greek manuscripts and the Vulgate, and what they decided was, okay, if we look at all these manuscripts, how can we craft up the best Greek manuscript They created the Texas Receptors using textual criticism methods over several manuscripts, and from that they translated it into the King James 1611 Bible that you have today. Most people don't read the preface, so they don't know this stuff. When you don't read the preface, first thing I read in the book is the preface. It's there for a reason. The preface gives you the will and intent of why this book is being written. It tells you why. Why did we translate it this way? Why did we do what we do? All the information is there. We just never read it. We go straight to the Bible. So what I'm saying is, what we have is a tradition that comes from the Byzantium text type family, and that there are other manuscripts that do not agree with it. And they're earlier than these Byzantium text type manuscript families. Family, what I'm telling you is very important, and a lot of people, unfortunately, are not aware to do this type of study. We assume a lot of things because this is the way we've been taught. But my objective is to be objective and to give you tools and resources so you could do your own independent study and see where the Ruach leads you. That's why I was safely said what I said, my brother. I did not say that there's no virgin birth. I don't speak like that.
Now he's saying there is no virgin. So now he you see what I'm saying? Everything he said implied there's no virgin birth. And then he comes back and fool us and say, because he didn't actually say it, he's not saying it. What are we doing? What are we doing here, man? See? What are we doing? All right, so let me see. I'm gonna stop right there, and let's see if we have any interesting comments. Ask all the questions. You heard what he had to say. The information brought out. You heard me try to respond to some things. What do you say? Do you guys think that he has legit claims? Hey, check out. She said, Julana Peace. She said, make sure to check out my show, Our Galaxy and Beyond, when two neutron stars collide. All right. She put the link in there. Click the link. Subscribe. So when y'all get tired of the virgin birth stuff that Unbiased Sports brings to you, you can check out Sister Juju channel, and I will definitely be supporting her channel. I popped up on Sean the other day. He was going at it with some, I think, Aboriginal. I popped up for a short while, but yep. So Juju, shout out to Juju. Let me see if we have any questions on what Divine said. Is any questions on what I said? Do you have any questions? Do you have any answers? House K said something very important. Divine, for Brother D. I can't call him Divine just yet. Brother D. He's not being divine. He doesn't. Let me stop that before I get a copyright. Oh yeah, definitely. See, like I said, subscribe to Juju. Let me do that right now. Matter of fact, let me share my screen as I do that. Hold on. Okay, so let me go there. This is her channel right here. I'm going to press subscribe right here. Okay, boom, boom, boom. And okay. I'm gonna give 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes. I'm gonna play as I change his diaper. So here we go. Something to watch. I change his diaper.
A whole box of 10 trees, and everybody muted up with juju.
Anthony.
Yo, what's going on, everybody?
What?
Appreciate you coming out, tuning in. It's gonna be a good one. We have a great topic for you, and we're gonna bring some clarity, a little bit of clarity to it, as best we can. So, yeah, let's get it in.
Let's get it poppin'.
It's gonna be a great ride.
So, when two neutron stars collide, so we definitely wanted to touch on this topic because this actually was a recent event that just occurred with the James Webb Space Telescope. It detecting a kilonova. Of course, it's not the first time, but this is one of the times where they've had like irrefutable, substantial evidence and some other scientific gains from this particular event. I don't want to say discovery because kilonovas have, somewhat been detected in the past, I believe 2009 and 2013 by other means, because there are several methods when you can detect them. But we just want to focus on this particular astro phenomena and tell you some interesting things about the find, so to speak. So getting to the first part of it, so unraveling the mystery of under what conditions that many of our known chemical elements are produced. This includes elements of high value and even those that are vital to life as we know it. The answer to this question, at least part of it, may have just been discovered with the recent observation by the James Webb Telescope of a kilonova. This was considered a high energy event and the second brightest gamma ray burst ever detected. Also, a direct look at the creation of an individual heavy element from such an event, particularly this event.
All right, so I like it. It's very sciencey, you dig? So when I come with the pseudo stuff, y'all get tired of this, all this pseudo stuff, y'all can go check out some sciencey stuff. You know me, I love chemistry talk. I'm talking about. When you talking about that Big Bang, we talk a lot of chemistry there. I like that. Okay, so there you go. Links in there. I'm a subscriber. You guys should subscribe. You need a variety of things to watch. We need to be entertained with stuff we want to watch rather than what's on TV or the ghetto rah-rah, you dig? So I like it. All right, so let's yeah. I'm gonna practice on stop saying Yeah, you know what? That's beautiful because all of us got something that we do that's annoying, but we don't know it until we play back ourselves. It might be something you always say, or it might be something you always do. Like if you got your camera on, it might be something you always do. Like a gesture, squint your eyes, all these weird things people do, fingers, it's something that we always do. We just be like, yo, why do I do that? Like, I realized when I was watching some of my basketball clips from the league, when I had them recorded, I had this, like, I looked at like, yo, I swear, the way LaMelo Ball trots look all weird or funny, where he trots down the court, that's what I was doing, something similar to that. And I hated it. I'm like, yo, why I keep doing it? But I finally caught myself, and it was just a comfortable stance. I finally caught myself doing, I'm doing it now. But I felt so, like, it was a comfortable stance. I just can't explain it. So I was like, oh well, I just live with it. You dig? So I started to just accept that. But yeah, when you're speaking, you want to just flow. You don't want to say, like, cursive. You got to think of speaking like writing cursive. It's just flow. You don't want to say because you wouldn't write that in a sentence. Like, you look at speaking like writing. Like, you wouldn't really write that down. Like, and we do that naturally to, like, well, we got it for somebody else, really. But we do it to, like, buy time to fill in our thoughts. Right now we probably went blank, or we're trying to recall something. So just so it won't be silent, we'll make a noise like So yeah, those are some bad habits, because when you are speaking like I do, like bad juju does, good juju, it starts to show its face then. And then you watch other orators and they don't do that. You start comparing yourself. You're like, yeah, let me Michelle Alexander, she did a great work on the new Jim Crow. But during her public speaking engagements, oh my God, she'd be like, it was just annoying. I loved what she had, the info. I loved it. Listened to it over and over and over, got her book, read it over and over and over. But her uhs and ahs, it bothered the hell out of me when she spoke. Yo, sis, because it could kind of feel like you're not confident in what you're saying, or you're nervous, and we don't, and sometimes we actually are, but you got to fake it till you make it. If it minds peace. Yeah, so definitely, said no rah-rah show, ain't no bickering. And over here, like most of my debates, y'all gotta agree, most of my debates be smooth. It don't be a lot of arguing and bickering either. We get one guy to blue to act the fool. All right, so I got two guys interested in joining. And I got to decide how I'm going to do this. I don't want to put them on the same time. I will only do that like if one brother is like kind of like rude or whack, then I invite the other brothers and have them both on. But if I could get two videos out of the two brothers, I'm always do that for content purpose. I'm a content creator, so I want two separate videos. But if one of them is like not that great, like I'm just slicing him up and down, then I invite the other guy for help, possible help. Yeah, I'm just previewing the show. What's the discussion? I want to join. But you got to join discussion we having on live. So you said you got to join our discussion we be having live on the break. Yeah. Peace, Nick, Walter. Yeah. And when you say join the discussion, you mean your panel? Yeah. Like I would love to contribute what I know about, if you're going into the Big Bang and those things. I would love to, that's my topic. I'm a little rusty, but that was my topic. Before Unc is the one that dragged me into the vaccine thing. But if y'all go to Unc channel, and before we got heavy with the vaccine, you'll see the conversation was about Big Bang. You'll see the conversation. Remember, Chef will tell you the conversation we had with Wujao was about the elements, the chemical elements. And that was me. I introduced that to the conversation. That was all me. So yeah, so I was heavy into the Big Bang. It was Up who convinced me to get into the vaccine. He tried to convince me and X, but it was like ultimately me who said, all right, let me try this challenge out. and then I kind of faded away in the Big Bang. But even my early videos, you'll see me calling out Christians who stood on creation and things like that. You know, I will go into the same way I do with this virgin birth debate. I will go into like Hebrew and Christian circles challenging creation versus Big Bang. Yep. So that is definitely an area that I was pretty much good at. I can't say I'm good at it now, but that's definitely my speed. So right now, so right now I'll just review, I'm reviewing divine prospect claims of the New Testament. I played some of it yesterday. It's like live reaction. He said a lot. So today I had this epiphany just to go ahead and just like challenge some of his claims. And each claim I challenged, I'm like, damn, like each thing he said, I looked it up, he was like misrepresenting or totally wrong. I'm like, oh my God, here we go again, man. And then the language he's using, he's saying Saint Jerome says something as an individual, and then he's used the word we know. Like, yo, how we get we out of singular? And then he says he names two people and say all. How you name two people and say all? You're supposed to say both of them. So it's the language he's using to act like there's this wide belief that he's trying to brainwash us to consider or even accept. And that's like very indigenous. I'm sorry, I keep saying that was very disingenuous, not indigenous black man. That was very disingenuous of him. Very deceptive, like very cult-like. It's like, yo, y'all see the way I debate. And you can see that you just by what Juju was talking on her show, you can see that they're bringing out just honest information. When you bring out honest information, you don't got to play with words. You don't got to, add. You don't got to be Mark Furman. If you believe OJ did it, just submit the evidence you have, and it's a closed case. If you believe he did it, you don't got to add to the evidence. When he added to the evidence, that is what gave a lot of the jurors doubt. If you believe OJ is the guy, why would you add to the evidence? There's blood, there's DNA, there's everything's there. He's done. Nope. He adds to the evidence. The glove don't fit, must have quit. He added a glove. The glove didn't fit, you must have quit. There you go. So same thing with our information. If you're right, you don't have to add to it. Just present it as it is, and it's going to stand on its own. You don't need crutches. You just need a mouthpiece. So we got cousin D, cousin D-VIL, cousin De-VIL, who's adding to the information. Then he's going to give his own scholarship on top of what scholars are not saying. It's just a ball of like confusion, his stance. Let me see if there's anything else before I close this out. I'm trying to get I got two Hebrews looking like they might be ready.
I say my subscription is that I do not side with that tradition. There was two traditions that was captured in the manuscripts. One that sides with the virgin birth, and one.
Like your nephew, of course. Yeah, he'll be two in 14 days. Terrible already.
That doesn't, and from my research, the ones that side with the virgin birth is mostly the Greek manuscript.
Duh, that's all you have. He said the one that does side with the virgin birth is the Greek manuscript. Bro, that's all you have. Everything else is a translation that comes from the Greek. So if it doesn't agree with the Greek, it's a mistranslation. What are you talking about?
These manuscripts. One that's tradition. There was two traditions that was captured in the manuscripts. One that sides with the virgin birth and one that doesn't. And from my research...
Okay, that's a lie. There's not two competing traditions here. He keeps saying traditions. There's one unanimous thought, and that's in mostly any Greek text I ever came across. So he keeps saying it's something different, and he hasn't done one show presenting a Greek text that says in Greek, show us in Greek that the virgin birth didn't happen. So the clock is on divine. Show us one Greek text that says Joseph begot Jesus. Just one Greek text that says that. And if you can't do one, and of course, we're not going with the one exception. I just want to see if it exists because you keep saying it. So let's look at one Greek text that says Joseph begot Jesus. Just one. And we could continue the conversation from there, and then it'll get serious. Then we could say, okay, now let's compare and contrast. I have this many Greek texts that says it happened. You got one. Is there any more? Nope. Then clearly unanimous decisions over here. It did, but to start the conversation in fairness, you got to show one Greek text that says Jesus was begotten by Joseph. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna save you some time that you couldn't do because you're busy. Remember, all these 1,000 texts, you only looked at 100, so you couldn't find them. You couldn't find time to use critical textual, whatever you call it, textual criticism. You couldn't do it. You didn't have time. So many out there, you couldn't get your hands on it. So, bro, I'm gonna save you some time. I don't believe you will be able to do it. But we're here. We ain't going nowhere. I'm live almost every day. All right, dealing with some of you Hebrew Ebionites. Okay, you're not Israelites. You're Hebrew Ebionites. I'm here every day dealing with you guys, brother. Inbox me. We're Facebook friends. You can, or you can come here. How you ever do it? Inbox me this Greek text that you claim is inconsistent with the virgin birth. All right, do that for me, my boy. And he coined the term pseudo dietary source. So far, I've been showing you committing suicide all day, all evening, by your sources. Okay, let's see what else he has to say.
The ones that side with the virgin birth is mostly the Greek manuscripts, but the Syriac and Hebrew, the originals, did not have that.
Okay, so I just showed you guys right here that the Syriac is a translation. It's not the original. By your sources. Hold on, damn it. Okay, let's see what else he has to say. So I say so a lot. I say so a lot. All right, and then I'm gonna say all right a lot. Cousin Divine, cousin De-VIL, show us what I said earlier, and he keeps calling this original when it tells you it's been translated into Syriac. Okay, translation of the four canonical gospels of the New Testament into Syriac. Translation of the Greek into Syriac, or wherever it's translated. I don't know where it's supposedly translated from. It can only be Greek. Okay, so cousin D, tell us where this was well, first of all, admit it's a translation. Let's start with that. Then once you admit it's a translation, tell us what original manuscript it was translated from. Okay? Because if you say the Koine Greek, then you're saying that they did horrible scholarship. They translated from a translation. Because you claim the Greek was a translation of the Hebrew, which is cat. So you will almost have to say that this was translated from what you call the original Greek, the original Hebrew. Then you got to show us the original Hebrew, so we can make sure it lines up, which you can do. All right. So this is a translation, but look what cousin D does. Look what he says.
And from my research, the ones that side with the virgin birth is mostly the Greek manuscripts, but the Syriac and Hebrew, the originals, did not have that. You know what?
See, he called it the original. Again, the original what, my boy? Original translation? Like, and the Hebrews are made up. It's a carbon. It's a copy of the imagination, my boy. There's no Hebrew Matthews. Okay. So again, demonstration beats conversation. You can't demonstrate anything I ask. Nothing. Zero. This is a challenge to you, my boy. Directly to you. Demonstrate this stuff to us. Demonstrate it on your channel. We'll go there. Inbox me or send a message here, or tell somebody and tell them to say it for you. But we'll come to your channel, demonstrate this stuff. Add me to the panel. I want to see this demonstration. I know you can't do it. Okay? So
why?
Calling the Syriac an original copy that we read for with your own eyes, it was translated into Syriac so that the Aramaic people can read it. They could not read Greek, evidently. So I'll let you hear him one more time, say original Greek, and this Matthew hypothesis garbage he's also spewing.
The ones that side with the virgin birth is mostly the Greek manuscripts. But the Syriac and Hebrew, the originals, did not have that. You know why? Because it was not important.
Okay, really. And he gives his own scholarship a lot, I see. Okay. Who's that? System Under the Wrench? I got you.
You're going to be like, what? It was not important? No, you don't need to know that for salvation.
And I disagree. What? And the Bible disagrees. The gospel that you reject disagree. Okay? You can't get to the Father without the Son. And we have shown that the Jews of that day and time, Jesus' day and time, did not believe it was possible to be the Son of God and the son of Joseph at the same time. Those Jews believed you had to be one or the other. So while Jesus is claiming to be a son of God, they was like, no, you're not. You're just a son of Joseph. There's nothing special about you. Okay? But Jesus says that this secret that he's the son of God can only be known if his Father shares that information to you. So if his Father does not share the information to you, and what I mean by that is if he don't share it through himself, through an angel, or through Jesus, then there's no way you can know that. You can't testify that he's the son of God. You can only conclude son of Joseph, like the obvious conclusion. Okay. So what that's just that. There we go. All right. And let me add this in there for those who appreciate that I set aside a lot of time to research. And every time I get on here, my research is better and better and better. One second. Right. So here we go. Let's finish.
Why do you need to know that for salvation? Whoever translated Matthew chapter 1, use a reference in Yeshayahu chapter 7, verse 4.
He said, whoever translated Matthew's 1. Again, he's leaning on the all right, so let me play some more.
14, right? Where it says a virgin shall give birth. You know, they use that a lot because in the Greek, the word is parthenos. Parthenos is what they use today as a process called parthenogenesis.
Okay, now he went somewhere else with that. All right, but in the Greek, they use parthenos for virgin for sure, but they are correct. Because I would like to ask you guys, or the so-called scholars, where in the Old and New Testament that you can demonstrate that when a person was called parthenos from the Greeks, that they were not actually Parthenos. Give me a situation where somebody was called Parthenos in the Old or New Testament and they were actually not. So the burden's on you because you're saying that. Show us that person was not Parthenos and you might have a little case there. This is another demonstration that you can't do. I don't believe you can do. Let me use those languages. I don't believe you can do that. Now, I know some of the verses you would try to twist up. I'm ready. I know some of the verses you're going to try to twist up to suggest that it's not going to work. Okay? But that's another thing. So when the Greeks put Parthenos all in the Old Testament, all in the New Testament for virgins, show us that they were not actually virgins, that they were men or women who had sex. Again, demonstrate it. I don't think you'd be successful. Okay, so the Greeks are right. So people got this blackology mindset that the Greeks were not highly intelligent for their time. They were. We agree that the Egyptians popped off science, and the Greeks took the baton and brought it to the Romans, and the Muslims took it, and some Africans grabbed it, but it was the Greeks who took the baton from the Egyptians. And the Muslims was right in there with the Romans. Okay. So the Greeks were highly intelligent. So I don't know why he keep coming off this blackology saying that they couldn't translate Hebrew. And we just read Saint Jerome, a Roman, lived in Jerusalem and he was able to learn learn Hebrew in a relatively short time. And he learned so much that he was able to translate the Old Testament from Hebrew to Latin, which is known as the Latin Vulgate, that the Catholic Church used for a long time. It was a standard Bible. Yes, I don't think there was an Old Testament translated out of Hebrew before Saint Jerome's work. Okay, so the Roman Saint Jerome can translate Hebrew to his language, and you believe no Greek can do that? That's just like that. Those are wild claims. We need proof. We need demonstration. Okay.
Parthenogenesis is where a female.
Now this is a side. Like, he just trying to show how smart he is. This is a sidebar, so I'm gonna fast forward. This Parthenogenesis. The Greeks said Parthenos. He went to say Parthenogenesis. Totally different. Parthenos means virgin, human virgin. Okay. Parthenogenesis. He's talking about something else. All right. It's not what the Greeks are thinking of. But he's trying to impose that.
A female, the clone, provide their own. Need the father's DNA in order being closest about to imply that a person is not born of an earthly father. Zeus is not a man. So when Zeus goes and lies with a woman and gives birth to a demigod, that person has a Parthenos birth. What is a Parthenos birth? That means, being that Zeus is not a man, he has put some kind of spiritual force into this woman to force a child to be born. But when you read the Hebrew is specific. You have Betula and you have Alma. Two different words that imply two different things.
Okay, here's the challenge again. So he's talking about Hebrew. I challenge him to show me where, again, it's just the word virgin. Show me where somebody was called Alma and they were not an actual virgin. Like we know English people know the definition of virgin. Show me a case where somebody was called Betula in the Bible, and they were not an actual English, virgin. When I say English, I mean our English definition, meaning without sex. So cousin D, show us in the Bible where somebody was called Betula, and they actually had sex. Show us somebody who's called Alma and they had sex. Okay, you're just talking, but give us the chapter and verse so we can read these people having sex, but they're also called Alma or Betula. I'll be waiting.
That does not.
You're making claims, but you don't substantiate them. You don't show. You don't prove it. You have no presentation. You have nothing. I watched 3, 4 of your videos, man. And these wild claims you're making, and you said you was going to show us all of here during this rant. You said you were going to show all the evidence in your immaculate deception. I haven't even found that video of yours. I found the immaculate conception. We watched that. You definitely didn't touch on that stuff. You touched on the immaculate conception, Roman Catholic jargon, and then you went into Matthew 12 verse 49, I guess, to show Jesus Christ had blood brothers, but you shied away from showing a blood father because people like me was waiting on that one. I was waiting to pounce on you. So you careful. You're slick. You do a lot of talking, but you don't really say anything. And when you do say something, it's the opposite. All right.
Have the Greek understanding behind it. So the Greek translates Betula and Alma the same. It's the same word, Parthenos. Whoever was reading the Septuagint when they inserted that into the book of Matthew did not understand Hebrew. They didn't understand Hebrew. And if they did understand Hebrew, what they would have done is transcribe the word. See, if I can't find a word.
So now, here is his projection again. This guy keeps saying they could not. He say they. I guess he's talking about all the Greek scholars. He's saying they can, or he's saying they cannot translate Hebrew. Dude, where you getting that from? All right, come on. Let's do this real fast. So Greek used to be a universal language during the Hellenistic and Roman Empire periods. Hebrew was not spoken even by the Hebrews at that time of Christ. They were speaking Aramaic and Greek. The Jewish historian Josephus wrote his books in the Greek language. Okay, I want to know if they were able to read Hebrew. I want to know if they were able to translate it. So I'm sure the average Greek didn't give a damn about Hebrew. They speak in their language, and they're probably speaking Latin. I might. Okay, so let me. How I'm gonna word this? Okay. I need to say like this. I need to use the word translate. Let me just say translate Hebrew. Not that, damn it. All right, let's go here. Let's go ahead. Let's see what this is. Let's see. All right. There you go. Look at that. Look at that. I'll let you guys read that. Then I'll come behind you. The Septuagint, sometimes referred to as the Greek Old Testament or the translation of the 70, ancient Greek. Okay. Metaphrasis ton heb dem dom kanta, and often abbreviated as LLX. So when y'all see me go into like the Greek translation of the Bible, especially Old Testament, you're gonna see this right here. Okay, so it is the earliest extant Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible from the original Hebrew. What is this guy talking about, man? What is he talking about? What is he talking about? They couldn't read Hebrew. Where is he getting this from?
In English to match a word in Spanish, I'll transcribe it. If I can't keep, it has to be translated. They're not. They're transcribed into Greek. That we got to circumvent this. Is the Hebrew suffix meaning your, zera, right? We got to use that. Man, look, if we put this virgin birth, we can appeal to this. And then you can be able to discern the text that a person.
All right, so that's more conspiracy theory. I think I did enough. I think I refuted most of his claims successfully. And I'm going to let me add this in the chat, just in case.
With a Western mind will not understand.
All right, so I'm in on that. I think I did enough. Peace. Wait. Let me see. Let me see any late comments. If not, I'm out. I'm working on this guy to call in. This Hebrew Ebionite. Okay. Yeah, I think. Okay, so we're cool. All right, we out of here. I'm out of here. If you see me again, it'll be a debate. Otherwise, you probably won't see me live again. All right? It won't be solo. Peace.